Ridiculously Queer podcast where we take a deep dive into a horror film, talk about how it connects to queerness, religion, and theology. And this is, in fact, a special episode, so we won't be talking about just one movie, but in fact, our entire season of movies. My name is Pace Warfield, and I just took a DNA test, and I've turns out I'm 100% that witch, to
Uh,
quote a Lizzo song.
uh, that's hilarious. Pace.
You are.
Doctor
Yeah.
Pace. Hilarious.
Yes.
Doctor Pace. And I'm Pastor Emily, and I am not made of a bunch of frogs.
That's good. That's good. I am Susanna. I am your tech coordinator, and I still swear by being the glass shards that stabbed the ceiling since the day I was born.
Love it.
But I love it. Follow us on Patreon at patreon.com/horror nerds at church, starting at only $5 to sign up. It is a great, like, there's a million things. You get all of our backlog uh of our Patreon episodes from vampires and Star Wars and aliens and predators. Oh my.
Hmm.
All of it and more to come. I have actually started watching American Horror Story, and now that I'm on the right season, it's not nearly as terrifyingly creepy, and I'm enjoying it. So there's even more to come yet. Check out our show notes for content notifications and the link to our bookshop.org books and all of the other references and things we talk about in this episode. So,
So that I'm doing a visual thing for all of our audio listeners.
that's about how the world is right now.
True.
Do you want me
Susanna, I
to?
think is there we go.
Okay, I have a list. Do you want me to display the list?
Of your general check-in
No, of the movies. I have it, so let me know when you want me to display the list.
oh of all of the movies we're going over. Holy
Well, all the
cow.
ones that were in the show notes.
We shall do
That's
that when we get into our thing. But
Okay,
before we get
okay.
into
yeah.
that,
Yeah.
we have our
Just let me
general
know when you want me to
check-in.
do it.
We'll do. So, for our general check-in, how's everyone doing? What have you been watching?
Um
What have you been
yeah.
reading?
I am coming out of migraine season, which is very exciting for me. I still have the other things going on, like the things that come with the migraine, but not the migraines themselves. So like the light sensitivity and the nausea, and I like am single handedly keeping Canada dry in business. And but outside of that, I've been watching The Last of Us, catching up on The Last of Us.
Mm.
So in our zombie thing in the future, I'm hoping maybe we'll consider that. Cause like, so for those of you who don't know, at least in the HBO Max like version, those zombies are created by a fungus, cordyceps, which is a fascinating fungus that does exist and is real, and it is a parasite fungus that infects its host and then can control its host's brain and make the host's body do what it wants it to do. So it's like being possessed, and it's a real life thing. And so that's the mechanics behind the zombies of The Last of Us. And it really is just one big. It just got real gay recently. No spoilers. It got
Wait,
real
I love when
gay.
that happens.
And I am really terrified because I have not played the game. I'm really terrified that this is going to be another bury your gays situation. And I really hope not, because the love interest is the best love interest I've seen on a screen in a while. Dina is amazing, and she is like smart and talented and witty and traumatized, but trying to do good with it. And I think she might upstage Bella Ramsey a little bit. Bella Ramsey is a non-binary actor, and you might remember them from Game of Thrones, where they were like the little kid in charge of the little clan, and did such a great job with it. But yeah, so like it really is about chosen family, and it got real
Hmm.
chosen family recently. And I knew Pedro Pascal was a good actor, but the last episode, Bella Ramsey did fascinatingly, beautifully well, and like the Pedro Pascal's episode, the last episode was very Oscar worthy, and like the emotion that they had was like I like bawled like a baby through the whole thing.
Hmm.
So there's that. Continue getting forward.
Yeah, it is not much of a secret that our next season, with maybe a surprise in before that, but like our next full season is going to be a zombie season. We've talked about that kind of openly now.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
we'll have to see if we can make that a boot tube. It's a good one, so we probably will. There's just so many. The problem I feel like with zombies is zombies we are so oversaturated
Recording
with,
in progress.
and there are like 500 million zombie TV shows and movies. So it's just one of those questions of we have too much to pick from. So what are we going to narrow it down for this first season? The Last of Us
But
is
I,
fantastic.
yeah, I've cast a vote for things that are gay. Things that are gay
Always.
should in this administration should
Always
definitely
be.
get a
Well,
leg
just
up.
wait
Let's
until
DEI the gay
on
shit.
zombie. Just wait because one of the movies that I'm absolutely going to make us watch for our first zombie season is Zombies of Mass Destruction, which is a very gay, very anti-Bush era politics, but still, surprise, surprise, relevant today. A horror movie about
What a
zombies.
surprise.
So,
I'm going to definitely vote for World War Z. So, um, but I haven't seen that since seminary. I did
and
watch
that one also,
class though.
but that one also is the least queer and the most cishet white guy of all the zombie movies out
But it
there.
also,
So,
yes,
Emily.
and it
Emily.
also has
Wah,
like
wah, wah.
a really good and interesting theological component that is
Mm.
like pivotal plot point. So,
mhm, mhm, for
uh,
sure.
yeah. Anyway, I have been watching American Horror Story 3, season 3, actual season 3, the Coven season.
Did you get to the
Um,
end? Where are you in it?
no, wait, 2 episodes in.
Oh,
I was gonna
so
watch
I
it.
can't make
I
my
was gonna
Naughty
watch it.
Pines joke.
No, I was gonna watch it yesterday, and then I ended up um I forgot about a thing that I had agreed to do with someone for their dissertation project. Um, that was an hour and a half, and then left me exhausted, and I had to do all my laundry. So, by which we mean folding laundry that has been there since before the resurrection of our Lord. Um, the Easter one, not the 2000 years ago one. Um, yeah, so I didn't get to it. But
The
I've been,
2000 years ago one is also the Easter one.
I mean, yes, but we didn't call
But
it Easter. We just called it, what the fuck are you doing here? I thought you died.
Rabboni, where have you
Um,
laid him?
right. Anyway, I, yeah, so I have been continuing my way through Braiding Sweetgrass, and the audiobook, which I highly recommend because whenever you get to like audiobook and the author is the one who does it, it's always the best.
Mhm.
Um, and the first book in the Leia trilogy for Star Wars.
It's
Um,
cute.
mhm, mhm, mhm. Indeed, indeed. And mostly playing a lot of Stardew Valley and some Super Mario
Yeah.
Party and stuff.
You haven't played Super Mario Party with me in a minute. That was
I
fun.
know.
We
We
should do
should
that again.
play. Yeah, River Brooke and I have been playing.
Yeah.
But Brooke can only play Brooke wouldn't be able to play with all of us because of the she doesn't have her own game of it, and I don't have my own game of it. It's just complicated.
Ah, see,
But yeah. Yeah. Anyway, that's a lot of what I've been doing and working. Oh, and starting a community college class because
that's
who
cool.
doesn't want to go to school before going to school?
That is cool though. I
Yeah,
love school. I just,
me too.
I mean, that's why I've been in school my entire life. Just now graduating for
Yeah.
my final degree, sadly. I mean, I could always find another
Now that you
doctorate.
have said final, watch out. You might go
Yeah.
back.
I mean, I would love to, but that would require some changes to the way student debt works in this country. Uh,
Yeah, good luck with that.
yeah. So let's see, what have I've just got so this past weekend, what I've been up to, aside from migraines, which I've been in a migraine haze for 3 weeks almost straight, with very few days without a migraine in the
Yeah,
past
they've
three
been
weeks.
ridiculous.
And today's really the first day that I'm like fully kind of, knock on wood, fully kind almost fully kind of getting out of it. So hoping that stays, although it's the pressure is doing wild things because of it being spring and the weather going from 90 degrees on like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to 40 degrees yesterday and today. So things are
Yeah, our
happening.
weather has been bonkers.
But so yeah, I've not been in a good place because of that. And also like work stuff. I want to be clear, love my job. Don't love having to do a job search right now though, which is unrelated to how much I love my job. So that's going on. But I this past weekend, um, I went to a memorial service for somebody in Brian's family, and I was kind of, where was that? Rochester, Minnesota. There's a independent bookstore there that I went to. And actually it was in Owatonna, I think. Anyway, it was somewhere in that area. And I
What's it
found the
called?
coolest, what?
What's it called?
The bookstore?
Yeah.
I don't remember. Uh, I'll make
Rude.
sure it's posted. Um, but I've been in migraine haze. How am I supposed to remember these
Okay, that's
details?
fair.
But anyway, I found like so many cool books, including this one, and I don't remember the name of this book either. So this is kind of you'll have to come back in 2 weeks when we have our literature retrospective, because then I'll make a point to talk about some of the books. But I got this really cool book about outer space from it's full of full page pictures, and with reflections written about First Nations about First Nations people's understanding of the cosmos from Minnesota, while also simultaneously including pictures along with scientific discussions um, by
That sounds
First Native people as
amazing.
well. And
Will you
it's
bring it
really
the
cool.
next time I see you? I
Yes,
need to like page through it.
it is cool. And it's published by Minnesota Historical Society. So I will make sure I
Mhm.
bring that book, not just for next time I see you in person, but also to our next episode so I can talk about it.
Yeah.
But I've also yesterday or the day before, very recently watched Final Destination Bloodlines, the latest film in that. Saw that in theaters, and it's fun. I mean, it's a Final Destination movie, so it's like it's exactly what you expect it will be, which means very cool, gory, contrived deaths, and a little bit of a plot that tries to make itself happen, but just doesn't quite get there. And so
Oh.
that's Final Destination Bloodline, and it is fun. And so if you're into that, go ahead, check it out. I liked it. We
I've
are
only
definitely,
seen the first Final Destination, I
yeah,
think.
we are definitely going to need to do a Final Destination season one
Hmm.
day, especially now that there are six movies in that franchise, with the most
Ooh.
recent one that just came out. But
Yeah, you could do like a real season.
that will be hard for you, though, Emily, because of the body horror elements of Final Destination.
I'll survive. I'm sure by then I'll be
There,
better.
so we'll see, because there, I think it's
Which one
Final
is it?
D, no, it's Final Destination 6. I'm pretty sure that has this scene. No, there are a lot of like, and Final Destination 2 has another one. There's like these scenes where like in part, the one I'm thinking of is at a office where a woman is getting LASIK surgery, and the Final Destination has to do with her eye and lasers and things like that and close-ups and stuff. So it's like that kind of body horror,
Oh,
which is very
that's
cringy
like,
for. There's
yeah,
another one where
that's
somebody is
not at
at,
all. Like, I'm thinking about Final Destination and thinking about like getting thrown out of an airplane, right? Like,
yes.
and that
Uh,
was like
but
not nearly
there's
as, yeah,
And then
okay.
the most recent, one of the most recent, was it this most recent one? One of them has a scene, like a close-up of somebody getting a pedicure with the nail scraper going underneath the toenail. So stuff like that, that is like designed to make your skin just crawl, and it is
Yeah,
very successful. I'm just saying that's why I
that,
think
yeah,
you
that
in
might
particular,
not
Emily,
be
it might
like
be hard for you to
good.
sit through for those.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
first
Oof.
All the Final Destinations, though, start off with that big catastrophe. Like they're all basically the same plot. There's a big catastrophe that somebody has a premonition of and decide and warns people, and because death didn't get to kill them in the catastrophe, death chases them one by one. So, anyway, we'll get there. It's really good theologically speaking to talk about this stuff. Lots theologically there
Okay.
about fate and destiny and death
Yeah.
and teleology and all that stuff.
Yeah.
The end times.
Like you.
Yeah,
Also, I'm spinning for those of you who are watching us
I love
on
it.
the Patsy books. I am doing some spinning that Lee taught me to do.
Oh,
So
I
yeah,
love that.
yeah.
We So this gets to an announcement. First of all, what I'm drinking tonight, I'm drinking Cycling Frog, their raspberry lemonade THC beverage, 50 milligrams of THC in this baby. I love it. Um,
I'm drinking water. I'm boring. I'm
I
boring. I have like a
hydrogen
regular
monoxide.
job now, and
I mean, I have a regular job and I still not boring.
Coffee, as per usual. The
I've
drink
had
of champions.
8 cups of coffee today, which is a little bit much for me. Um,
that
oh,
does seem like a little bit more than
yeah.
normal.
So, also postponing a few episodes. So you might have thought this episode was supposed to be practical magic.
Mhm.
Surprise, it's not. Then you might have thought this episode was supposed to be our witch literature retrospective. Surprise, it's not. Life is happening. It's happening, folks. Our next episode will be our lit retrospective, especially special guest Stephanie Kaler. We'll talk more about that at the end. But we are indefinitely postponing our practical magic episode just because life is lifing, but we definitely want to cover that in the future. So we'll likely cover it in the next season at some point or find a way
Because
to
it
squeeze it in
has a
there.
zombie in it.
It does, kind of. Zombie
Which,
adjacent.
hey, that's all we need.
Yep. So we'll cover that in the future. And there's some of our Patreon stuff we haven't gotten to yet. So we Emily and I haven't had a chance to talk about that yet. I know we still want to make American Horror Story
Mhm.
come out because we're already in the process of watching that. But there's a few more things like Bewitched we're supposed to do and Fabric, and we'll just have to
And
see
Discovery of
how that
Witches.
fits. Yeah.
I think
So
that
some of
if we
that,
didn't do Discovery of Witches, our super techie witchy genius would resign in protest,
yeah, so there's
honestly.
stuff like that that we need to figure out. So we'll let you all know the timing of
It's
that. Basically,
possible.
thank you to our Patreon supporters though for your patience as we get this stuff figured out. It's been a
Indeed.
really hard spring for a lot of us,
Yeah.
myself included.
Yeah. On like not and we're not even just talking about like on a socio-political
Yeah,
level. It's been a hard spring. It's
my
just been like across the board.
stepmother passed away. I was laid off from 50% of my job. I can just think of all the checklist of all the things that happened in the past 3 months.
Yeah.
And it's just like a lot. I finished a dissertation. I'm graduating.
Yeah.
All this stuff happening.
Oh,
Had
documented.
nearly a month-long migraine. My great aunt died over the weekend. All sorts of stuff.
Oh no.
So
That
yeah.
sucks.
It was an expected passing and yet still a passing. So,
Yeah.
uh,
I didn't always care.
yes. Well, this is our retro and they tend to run a little long. So we're going to do a short politics nerds at church. What do you got for us, Susanna? Turning the floor over to you.
At the moment, I'm trying to find out. I mean, like, it moves so fast, right? Everything moves so fast these days because that was the plan.
Right?
And at the moment, I'm trying to find out for our listeners, which is the best thing to contact your representative about Trump, like, floating the idea of suspending habeas corpus. Um, so I don't know if anybody else would like to discuss this in any way at all, but habeas corpus is what it. The writ of habeas corpus is a writ of habeas corpus is a legal process that allows an individual to challenge the legality of their detention or imprisonment before a court, ensuring protection against unlawful or arbitrary incarceration. So basically, that means that if they arrest you, you have the right to a jury or judge or something that allows you to challenge the allegations against you in the court of law.
And
And
with
continue.
just to add on that, and also you have the right to know what you're being charged with as part
And
of habeas
you
corpus as
have
well.
the yes, and you have the right to know what you are being charged with.
In other words, you have to be charged with something in order
Yeah,
to be arrested, in theory.
So like currently,
that's true.
and I'm talking in like the last couple days he started to float it and he started getting then Christy Nome recently, like today,
Yay.
literally said, uh, I think that the government and the president has a right to suspend it. So
Hmm.
it hasn't quite had enough time for us to see who's going to step up. I know the ACLU is going to step up to it. But like outside the ACLU, who currently has an action about it that you can jump on, so you don't have to create your own. I'm assuming the ACLU is the best one. So, like literally in the last couple hours, Christy
Yeah.
Nome, who's the Homeland Security Secretary, says that she called habeas corpus, quote, a constitutional right that the president has to be able to remove people from this country and suspend their rights.
Yeah.
And that
Not
is
at all
not
what
the
it
case.
is.
Not accurate.
So defining habeas corpus that way is basically terrifying because that's not what it is. Um,
Yeah.
there has been times in the past when habeas corpus has been suspended, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I know
The
that
Civil
Lincoln
War
did it.
is like the most well-known one, right?
What?
Lincoln was the most
Lincoln.
well-known.
Lincoln did it a couple times during the Civil War. It was like detecting spies. It was, and then here's what's really terrifying: Lincoln ignored a Supreme Court judge um, about it. So then Congress authorized suspending it in 1863. So that time Lincoln did it. Congress came up behind him and gave him, cover. Congress also did it under President Grant, suspending it in parts of South Carolina under the Civil Rights Act of 1871. This was for something called the Ku Klux Klan Act. It was meant to stop violence and intimidation by groups that were happening with Reconstruction in the South. When the Philippines was a U.S. territory, it happened. And in Hawaii, after Pearl Harbor bombing, it was. Now, what Amy Coney Barrett has said is that the suspension clause does not specify which branch of government has the authority to suspend habeas corpus, but most people agree that only Congress can do it. So Amy Coney Barrett has been on the record saying, previous to all this, saying that in her view, only Congress is allowed to do that. So what we know is that Trump is considering trying to find a way to do that. It doesn't give me any, it doesn't give me any cover or makes me feel any better that Amy Coney Barrett's like, well, Congress is allowed, because Congress is basically doing whatever he says. And when Congress does, kick up their heels against the Trump administration, it is only because of their business financial interests are getting tanked with the tariffs. When it comes to civil liberties, yep. Congress has not... the Democrats have written some strongly worded letters, and which does us zero good. And are trying to
wrongly
to
worded letters.
To be clear, if Trump wanted to change policy, he could. He has the Senate. He has the Supreme Court. He has the Congress. He could pass a law. They could pass it. Somebody else could challenge it before the Supreme Court, and it would fail, and therefore the law would be passed under completely normal existing means. Mm-hmm. Trump is not interested, even though he has domination of all the branches of government, not interested in passing policy. These are not policies. This is a power grab. Trump is interested in changing the structure, and that's why he's talking about suspending habeas corpus. That's why he's going after gutting the government, yep. Because he's not interested in changing a policy. This is not a policy issue. This is a power grab. So I'm trying to figure out which is the best, real quick, who you can get with. I'm assuming it's the ACLU. This all just happened today. Because, he says things like that. But honestly, I would... If you have any money, please consider becoming a member of the ACLU. Please consider becoming a member of the ACLU. They have their hands full, and they will give you the most up-to-date things about what's being trampled, and they will give you it matters. A membership matters. So I think we've talked about contacting your representatives. I think it's time for us to talk about memberships too, and how they factor in. A membership is like a voter contact. So when you do voter contact, I think we've talked about before, an email is worth 5 people who vote that way and didn't email. A phone call is worth 10, and a handwritten letter is worth 50. That's why there are people in an office that count these things and then go back to the congressperson and say, these are the stats for your district. And they use that voter contact to determine what the feeling and the pulse is in the district. And that's why contacting your legislator matters so much. But another one that matters is memberships. So when the ACLU lobbies or NARAL lobbies or HRC lobbies or what have you, they go in with a membership list, because a membership, depending how much the membership is, also counts as people who vote that way and didn't actually call in or send an email. And it gives that lobbyist power. So it is also really important that you be a member of certain organizations, because those lobbyists are going to go to those congresspeople and say, if you do not do X, Y, and Z, then we will do A, B, and C. Or if you consider passing this horrific bill, we will kill it in court, or we will support somebody in a primary campaign, et cetera, et cetera. And right now, of all the organizations out there, I really think the ACLU is the one that we have to support the most with our memberships, because they are the ones that are going to be on the front line of legal strategy when it comes to things like habeas corpus. So if you have, even if it's just a $10 a month membership, that membership is actually counted in the lobbying efforts. And when the ACLU goes in and says, we've had a 50% increase in membership since this particular thing has hit the news, that's a big deal when a person is considering supporting or opposing a bill. They want to know how many memberships, how many ACLU memberships are in their district, because that's going to tell them who's going to come up their ass about it and how many are going to come up their ass about it. So honestly, I would consider,
but not the fun way.
But not the fun way. Not the fun way, unfortunately. But the ACLU currently is got actions about releasing those who are detained in El Salvador, and they're definitely doing a lot. Their foundation is doing a lot of work with trans folk. Their foundation is doing a lot of work with trans storytelling, which is really important when it comes to changing hearts and minds and combating the narratives that the Trump administration is putting out there. Is taking the time, because it doesn't have instant gratification storytelling, but it does have the biggest impact long-term wise. And so nobody wants to do storytelling campaigns. And when I say storytelling, I mean amplifying the lives of everyday trans folk, and talking about what they experience. That does not make money for an organization. But it does do the most impact in the long term.
Yeah. It's one of those things that's typically cut quickly. And with like loss to all sorts of federal funding for this stuff, a lot of organizations are cutting back on that because they do not provide direct client uh, aid. So they tend to favor stuff that does, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like if you have to decide between money you can put into housing or money you can put into storytelling projects, I can see why you would put it there. But it does, we lose the ability to tell these stories and
But also
create these stories.
Yeah. But also like storytelling is a huge part of how Minnesota passed same gender marriage, was through the storytelling campaigns that people did in Minnesota at the time. Question for you, Susanna. I know some organizations have, like, there's a state ACLU and then there's the national ACLU. Is there one that's better to be a member of than the other?
Yes,
is it better to go local?
Thank you. It is the state. Go for the state. I wouldn't. Some even have municipals, New York City has its own. All right, so hear me out. The way these generally work, here's the tea about nonprofit 501c4s and their affiliates. Usually, in my experience, the largest state and the national hate each other, and the largest city and the state hate each other because they're vying for the same memberships, right? And different organizations do memberships different ways, but it's really depending on how much information is shared between their state and their national. I can tell you about NOWs or NARALs, but I don't necessarily know the ACLUs. I do know that national supports its states a lot better than a lot of justice organizations. So on this one, I'm sure that there is a shared membership. It's not the same for all of them, for all justice organizations, but I think on the ACLU it is shared. So it's better for you to, in my opinion, because generally what happens is when you get a membership on a federal level, all that money goes to federal. Right? When you get a membership on a state level, and I could be wrong that the ACLU does it this way, but this is the standard operating procedure. When you get a membership on a state level, they also become members of on the federal level, on the national level. But a portion of, if not all, of the membership money goes to the state. Whereas it's not the other way around. If you get a membership on the national level, you may or may not end up on the states list. And the states are where it's happening. So the states are where, I mean, there's a lot happening on the
That's
federal
where the
level.
lobbying is
There,
is effective though, because like if you're a member of Iowa's ACLU, that's a very different conversation with Joni Ernst and Chuck Grassley than
yes,
if you're just
because
a general
especially in
ACLU.
Iowa, that has some purple tendencies, right? So like, if you
Had.
think like there's 500,000 people in a congressional district, and there's significantly less in a house in a state house district. So like these people win their elections by much smaller margins on the state level, and yet they are the ones that are testing the laws to be run on a federal level. Like right-wing organizations use states to test them. And when I say test, I mean literally as soon as a bill passes in a state, right-wing organization that right-wing organization likes, they copy it word for word and then try to ship it to some other state, to the effect where sometimes they miss the state's name, and the first state's a typo in the second state's actual, like, on the record bill submission. Like they literally copy them and then ship them elsewhere. So all of these testing grounds are happening in states, particularly when they want it to hit the Supreme Court. When they want it to hit the Supreme Court, they deliberately put it in a right-wing state that's in a right-leaning district, hoping that it will be challenged and then be shipped up the pipeline, rather than have to go state by state by state passing this right-wing agenda. So it's really important to do these memberships on a state level. On a state level, the information will get shared with the national organization, and the national organization will count it as well. But it's not necessarily the same thing, vice versa. And the states need
Mhm.
it, and that's where more impact. Your membership is going to be worth more.
Mhm.
So honestly, I think this episode for Politics Nerds at Church is get a membership with the ACLU, because that gives the ACLU lobbying power.
Sweet. Thank you.
Or gift a membership.
Or gift
Yeah.
a membership if you are already one. Gift a membership to somebody else.
Or
And
deploy.
if you really want to be snarky, if you have some money and you really want to be a snarky asshole, I love it. I love it. I love to see it. Every time a state senator, you can do this with your friends, okay? You get a group of 5 or 6 of you, and every time a state senator says something horrific, you buy an ACLU state membership for a friend, and then you send them a letter saying, you were so horrific, it bought the ACLU 10 memberships this month. Thank you so much for your work. Like,
Hmm.
there are ways of getting snarky about it. But
Yep.
and Starkey gives me
You
some
could
peace
even
at
give
night.
it
I'm not
in
gonna lie.
honor of.
In honor of, yes. Strom Thurmond was somebody we did a lot of actions in honor of back in the day.
Yikes, yes.
Lots of in honor of Strom Thurmond. So like there are ways that you can have fun with it, but like memberships, they really help, because honestly we don't need the ACLU spending all of their time on a membership campaign. They need to be fighting these things. They need to be in the courts fighting these things. And in the courts means lawyers and filing fees, and that's a lot of money in itself. And they do the work of giants. They do the Lord's work right now. So yes. Now is if you ever were like, oh, I should get a membership, these 4 years are the years that you should have a membership to as many organizations as you can afford, because by doing so you are giving the lobbyists power.
Mhm. Especially local organizations
Mm-hmm.
and the ACLU, basically.
So that's my spiel.
Love it.
There's
I like,
totally a quick one.
yeah, because we're so good at actually fitting stuff
Oh
in
no, you're
too.
being sarcastic? I thought that was really quick.
Ah, not at all.
There is
That
like
was like a good
no,
30 minutes.
we're never gonna have a quick one. That's
It's
Oh,
okay.
so a
not.
symptom of ADHD is time blindness,
Yeah.
And sorry.
No, you're good. Apology rejected. It's
Have
just,
you met us? Do you
yeah.
not know us?
The only thing it affects on my end, well, it affects my editing, but like the only thing it affects in the moment when we run over is like having to figure out logistics of getting Gandalf from Brian so Brian can go to bed. But like beyond that, like whatever. It's time. Um, so a quick overview of how the retrospective will go, which is kind of this is the pattern we do for all of our season and retrospectives, with a little bit of changes here and there. But we talk about like the lore of the season. So since we were watching witch movies, we're going to start off by talking about some of the witch lore that we've noticed and maybe some of the trends that we've seen evolve over the season since we watched the movies primarily in chronological order until the end it got a little bit different. But so stuff like that. Then we play a game where we take our one sentence summaries from the last year, or the last season, and try to remember what those apply for. And I'll explain all these in greater detail when we get to each section. Then we'll talk about some of the major theological themes. Like, obviously, we did our deep dives all season long, so we're not going to do more deep dives. We're just going to basically say these are some of the things that we've noticed over the past season come up again and again, or that surprised us about last season, that kind of thing. And then, kind of the heart of the episode is we rate the movies from our least favorite to most favorite. And there's a kind of a rule about how we do that too, and it kind of creates an official podcast ranking. So that's fun. And then new this season, I'm gonna end us with some superlatives of basically our favorite of the year or the something of the year kind of thing. So we'll get there. So to begin with
I
this,
also, are we, do you have somewhere what we actually rated all of the movies?
yes,
Okay. I was thinking about it and then forgot about it. I just want to check. Okay. Okay. I'm ready. I'm ready.
do not worry. I do all that stuff
Yeah,
for
this is
these.
one of
So
my favorite episodes because I literally all I do is rank videos. And I'm
yeah.
like, okay, let's go.
And even that though is hard for you though. So it's some hard work you put
Gosh, it
into
was
that.
so hard this time. I don't
You say that
remember.
every time.
Okay, but also like half of them are named witch in some capacity. Like telling the movies apart this time was almost as hard as the Alien franchise.
I love it. Yes. Um,
Anyways,
so we will begin with some witch lore, uh, and kind of basically just like how has the witch evolved in cinema over the past century. Like the earliest movie we watched was Haxan 1922. So literally, and our most recent movie was Wicked from last year, 2024. So literally, in the past 102 years,
yeah.
how have witches changed? And I think the biggest one is from the from witches went from being antagonists to protagonists. A lot of the witch stuff that comes out now tends to have witches as the protagonists or being a good light. However, I will
Or at least
say,
as a possibility.
yeah, but I will say, surprisingly, from the very beginning, Haxan and the Wizard of Oz both kind of had like the Wizard of Oz has a good witch, and then also Haxan has the whole point of it is to say witches are not as evil as you think they are. So
Yeah,
I feel like
the whole
from the
concept of
beginning that was already kind of being queered this
yeah.
season.
Well, and I love that aspect in particular because I didn't expect it from
Yeah.
the 1920s, from like a movie that is so old that like I had to watch it twice because it was a silent film and I had to
Hmm.
read the things. But like I didn't expect it to be a like this is the history of witches, but like really it's clearly bullshit. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
I love that.
Also, one of the things I was just trying to pay attention to all season long was where the witch's power comes from, because within Christian mythology, and folklore, witchcraft is associated with devil worship.
Hmm.
And obviously, movies that feature witches as protagonists tend to not have the witches getting their source of power from Satan. However, that then creates a question of where do they get their powers from? And uh, movies like Halloween Town just kind of conveniently like, oh, magic exists. We're not sure how it happens, kind of vibes to movies like Matilda, where it's telekinetic powers. So it's like all these kind of and telekinesis that comes from her brain being so underutilized, it creates an abundance. So her abundance of intelligence manifests in other ways.
Yeah.
So
Which I love. I love,
yeah.
like, we talked about that, and I love the conversation that we had in our Matilda episode about, like, because the question was raised, is
Hmm.
Matilda even a witch? And I still am firmly Team Witch. But I love that there are so many different ways that magic and power can manifest and can come about,
Yeah.
whether it is because your brain is so underutilized or because it's just an inherent part of how the world works. And, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like
So,
Kiki's Delivery Service is one that stands out to me, where
mhm,
witches are just like a part of the
yeah,
world and they're just accepted as there being like a witch who comes to a town and just kind of sets up shop and
yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of beautiful interpretation.
Yeah.
Um, Witches tend to have spell books. We've kind of, to the point that that was a rating system, was basically whatever spell book they had. Not all of the movies had spell books, but a good number did.
Yeah.
And since we are horror nerds at church, it is interesting in the ways that a sacred text of whenever a sacred text of some sort shows up, something that we're all automatically going to pay attention to. Um, and
I was,
another podcast of ours that's a sibling podcast basically had an entire original 3 seasons of a former iteration before having 3 new seasons plus more and more about the ways in which sacred texts and witchcraft and sci-fi and fantasy and all that stuff combine.
it's true. Nerds at Church has done a lot in that, both connected to liturgy and the readings that many Christians read every week in worship, and totally disconnected and connected to things like space and magi and superheroes and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And eventually we will finish that season when my ability to returns
Yes.
someday.
Um, I'm kind of skipping ahead to just say, since we're talking about spellbooks, just other witch accessories that show up. We've seen brooms
Mm.
show up. We've seen familiars show up. We've seen candles show up. We've seen witch jars that include used tampons show up. We've seen lots
Bed
of
knobs.
herbs and a bed knob. Thank you. We've seen a magic wand in the form of whatever the fuck Linda's using in both Wicked and in the original Wizard of Oz. I think that's a magic wand, but it's like has this weird star at the end. I don't know what that is.
Yeah,
It's more of a, it makes me think of what are those called?
the
Some
fairy
other
wand
kind of
or
tool,
wands.
but yeah.
Yeah.
Uh so all sorts of which uh various ways which craft shows up in the accessories that come with them. I love the amount of witches that have the iconic hat that really got its start in Wizard of Oz and
Mhm.
has shown up again and again with witches having an iconic pointed hat that Margaret Hamilton
Yes.
first donned.
Yeah.
And I think that's something really cool this season is how we were able to bookmark it with us an ending unintentionally, but ending on Wicked and almost starting with Wizard of Oz is the second movie we covered. And just the way that we have a 1939 depiction of a witch that it
Mhm.
basically has impacted, for better or worse, the ways witches have appeared up throughout pop culture ever since. And then ending it with this very intentional queering of that particular character from
Yeah.
Wicked.
Well, and that like both of them have a good witch and a bad witch. Like
Yep.
they're all, yeah, interesting. So I wonder, this is like jumping back, but like
Hmm.
I wonder if, just gonna posit a hypothesis
Yeah, yeah.
that perhaps it is sexism that drives the idea that witches have long been considered antagonists. I mean, also like history and the
Hmm.
witch trials, right?
Yeah.
But like from the beginning of the movies we covered, witches are not inherently evil, right?
Hmm.
Like Haxon, it's all sorts of reasons that people are accused of being witches without actually being witches. And then you get Wizard of Oz, where there's good witches and bad witches. And like, yeah, so it's just interesting to me
Yeah.
the cultural narrative versus the actual movies and the actual patterns
Yeah.
in movies.
Which I find fascinating. I think horror and which season, a lot of the movies we covered were not necessarily scary. So this season of all our seasons, this season and last season when we did Star Wars and Alien, are like the two that we have the most broad definition of what we mean when we talk about horror nerds at church. However, to me, it is interesting the ways that horror as a genre broadly, but also specifically tends to kind of undermine cultural narratives and while also supporting it, of course. And all literature and art does this to an extent, but horror is specifically one of those where I think it shows up in very intentional ways that isn't always the case in other genres. And related to that, just how much witches of all the mystical creatures we've covered, we've done ghosts, we've done aliens, we've done dreams, we've done vampires. Witches of all those are the ones that show up in the most diversity of genre
Mhm.
beyond just horror.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
I mean, witches even showed up in Star Wars. We talked about the witches of that one planet. I can't remember the one
We
planet and stuff
did.
like that. So,
Yeah, yeah,
and the witch
yeah.
of
There's just
Endor. Yeah.
so many different. I
Uh,
mean, yeah.
and then we also have the reality, as Haxon pointed out, but also as neo-paganism reminds us. We had uh, Catherine Buck, Catherine Clarenbach on here to talk about this in particular of real witchcraft practices and the ongoing various traditions and followings of witchcraft and the historical reality of witchcraft and global understandings of witchcraft versus how it's depicted in movies and what connection is there between the two. And at best, there's this tenuous connection or acknowledgement that witchcraft is real and there are real practices to it. But that's tenuous at best. At worst, there's just absolutely no connection between what actual witches do in their practice versus what is being depicted in film.
Yeah. Yep. I think the like closest you get is candles.
Yeah,
Candles definitely. And then but the other stuff like is just so uniquely interpreted and
yeah,
understood that like a spell means a different thing in a different context. A
yeah,
wand, right? Like all of those different pieces can mean such different things depending on, which witchy circle you're in or
yeah,
which movie you're watching or all of that. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Uh, and this also then brings us to the question of who can be witches. Most of the genre we've seen, only women can be witches. However, there are some are women and men. and presumably non-binary people can be witches. However, sometimes it's not explicitly said. Sometimes there's like this weird binary of witches and warlocks, or something similar, witches and wizards, uh, etc.
But I did hear at one point that like originally witches was not actually supposed to be a gendered term.
Yeah,
And we'll talk more about this in our next episode because I am definitely talking about cemetery boys in that
yeah,
episode. But
yeah.
um yeah,
But
there's
exactly is it. Witches were a witch to be a witch and to practice witchcraft was genderless, even though women were more commonly associated with it in the Europe. It was always this, nevertheless, this understanding that men could be witches too, and presumably non-binary people.
it reminds
Um,
me of being a woman in being well, I was at the time women in gender studies, but to do gender studies and the assumption was always that it was about women
mm,
back before we really had a concept of non-binariness.
yeah,
Um, when in fact, like I also took classes that studied masculinity and
yeah.
masculinities and like, yeah, those dynamics.
Also, to this is to touch upon the real connotations of witchcraft in depiction with race and with ugliness and ability level, both of the versus disability, both of those or all that showed up quite a bit.
Mhm.
Um, the witches we tend to see in our, by and large, have been white witches, with and part of that is on us for not necessarily picking more diverse movies, but also it is the reality within Hollywood that what is considered witch tends to be white and Semitic in appearance. And part of that comes from its depiction in things like Haxan and The Wizard of Oz, but
Mhm.
also stuff that is multicultural or global understandings of witchcraft get categorized differently. So, like, we would have a voodoo priestess as opposed to a witch instead of when it is essentially witchcraft, and how that stuff is labeled differently, like who gets to be a witch versus who is some sort of other tribal or indigenous magic worker that isn't a witch, and how that is played into race. And then, of course, just the Semitic appearance of witches and the origins of that in anti-Semitic European folklore and all that stuff.
Mhm. Yeah, I again am excited to talk about Cemetery Boys next week because that's a clear like pushback against that. But that's part of what I love about all of the like we did a witch season, but you could almost kind of say it was a Wizard of Oz season
Yeah,
because we watched The Wizard of Oz, we watched The Wiz, and we watched Wicked. Um, and the different ways that those have they just have different takes on what it means to be a witch and how witches are portrayed. And I love that um that we get to see that we get to see the Wiz, that we get to see Wicked, and like I have a reason for why it's ranked where it's ranked on my thing, and a large part of that is because it's a two-parter, and I understand that that's how it works from the musical to the movie and all of those things as we talked about. But also like it was so good and so intentionally and well done
yeah,
because it's a multicultural cast, because there's an actual wheelchair user playing a wheelchair user. Like
yep,
all of
right.
those things make it better. So,
Hmm.
a little.
Yes. Uh, and then finally, with which lore I will say is just this ongoing, and this is hard. This is hard because this comes back along with theological themes, but it's just the queerness of witchcraft and witches and especially when it is used as a metaphor for queerness, like it is intentionally wicked along with other things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I feel like that's something that we'll talk about more in the theological themes section. But yeah, it's just been a really, for me, this has been a really surprising season. I did not expect it to be as like I've seen all pretty much all the movies we covered before going into the season, yet watching them intentionally in this kind of starting with Haxan and going through um
It's a
10
different
decades. It's just like
yeah.
it's like wow.
It's a different way of watching them. And like
Yeah.
admittedly, I have watched, far fewer than you. What a surprise. But even the ones that I have seen, like to watch them in a different way, which is why my rankings here and my actual ratings are going to be pretty different in a couple of places. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, now to our favorite part of the episode, I think one of our favorite parts is the one
I
sentence
love this
summary
part.
game. So all season long, it started out kind of as a joke in season two, three, four,
Three?
season four,
Three or
season
four.
three.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of them.
Yeah.
And it's now become a recurring subject. Emily and I both write a one sentence summary. Sometimes Susanna has one. Sometimes our guests have one. But and the one sentence summaries sometimes are descriptive. Sometimes they're more of a joke. Sometimes it's like,
Hey,
what the fuck were we thinking? What drugs were we on when we did this? I mean, marijuana and
I
alcohol,
was
but
gonna say,
beyond
I
that,
mean,
we know what drugs we're
Zoloft.
on. Yep. Prozac. But
Better living through chemistry.
yay. Um, but yeah. How this works is I will read a one sentence summary that we use for an actual movie. Emily gets to guess what movie that's from. Susanna can agree or disagree. And then Susanna gets to guess who said it, whether it's Susanna, Emily, or Pace, and Emily can agree or disagree. And these include some of the movies we've covered for Patreon, all the movies we covered on main feed, and these are the movies to choose from. So we're Black Sunday, The Blair Witch Project, Halloween Town, The Covenant, The Witches of Eastwick, My Bloody Valentine, Friday the 13th, Part 3, 3D, Haxan, The Wizard of Oz, It's a Wonderful Life, Elvira, Thanksgiving, Matilda, The Love Witch, Wicked, Suspiria, Bedknobs, and Broomsticks. So out of those movies only, so that's not all the movies we covered, but most of them, I'm going to read the one sentence summaries, and Emily will have to guess
Okay.
what movie it refers to. And Susanna will guess who said it. And we'll give you our listeners like before you answer, Emily, give like 5 seconds for our listeners to think what their answer may be too
Yeah.
if they want to play along.
Yeah.
So to begin with, our very first one.
Okay.
Typical lesbian meets gay man, makes chosen family, but from the cishet point of view.
Oh no.
I think that's definitely me. Did I say that? That feels like something I would say. Like for our listeners, I'm ADHD. This means that, and I'm real ADHD. The only person I know who's more so than me is my sister, and what that means is that I don't remember crap that I'm supposed to do. If I order something on Amazon or eBay and it comes in the mail, I don't know what it is. It's like
Okay,
Christmas for myself. But that sounds like something I would say.
you
Okay,
are
read it
correct.
one more time.
Typical lesbian meets gay man, makes chosen family, but from the cishet point of view. And I should have given Emily a chance to agree or disagree with that assessment. Was that Susanna?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was Susanna. Yes, that was Susanna. You're correct, Susanna. But what
Um,
movie, though?
That I don't
I
remember.
I mean it could be a couple, right? Like
Right?
right now
That's the
I'm
problem
tossing
with a lot of
around.
these.
Yeah, I'm tossing around The Witches of Eastwick and The Covenant, but I feel like it's not either of those things, but it's not really like The Love Witch.
See, this is fun.
No.
I think you might have almost said it just now. What was your intuition leaning to?
Bed knobs and broomsticks.
Yeah, that feels like
No
something that's
way!
about bed knobs and broomsticks. Yeah.
Is it? Oh, wow.
Emily's,
Yep. Yep.
you are correct. Susanna, you said
Oh.
that about bedknobs and broomsticks.
Ooh. Okay. Wow. This is getting intense
I
already.
know. That was just our first one.
I
Okay,
know.
next. Next. And I like the idea of Susanna guessing first. I think it works best that way. Susanna guesses first who said it, and then Emily gives Emily a little more time to think about what it is,
Yeah.
what movie it is. So, the next one. Dick ain't that.
That feels like something. That feels like something Pace would say.
It does feel like something Pace would say.
Agree, Emily? Yep, that was the pace.
Uh, Dick ain't that. Uh, I, I mean, I kind of want to go with the Witches of Eastwick because it's the one that I think makes, yeah, the Witches of Eastwick.
No. That it totally works for that.
Right?
It totally works for that.
Uh,
That feels like a Witches of Eastwick one.
It
yeah.
would totally work for that, yeah, but it's not.
Oh
Well, and
no.
now there are so many options, right? Because I could be like, well, is it the Love Witch? Because she was obsessed. But also the Covenant. But also, I don't know, is it actually like one of the non?
Okay, I'll give you a hint in that it was one of the two you just named,
Oh,
the Covenant or the Love Witch. Which of those do you think it is?
I think it's the Love Witch.
What do you think, Susanna?
Yeah. It feels like the Love
Yep,
Witch.
the Love Witch.
Okay.
I
Jeez,
think,
this is hard. I
right?
don't feel like it was this hard last time.
I don't think,
But
well,
I
last
also
time it was
like
Star Wars,
knew
so it was
Star
kind
Wars
of
so well.
easier to,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so this one I think is a little bit of a softball, so I think everyone can get this one. Um, Dance is magic and death.
Suspiria.
Suspiria.
Yep. Who said it?
I don't know. Maybe me? I have no idea then.
It was me.
Emily's
It
right.
was you. Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
Huh.
See?
yeah.
That one was easy. This
Telling you,
next
I
one I
don't. My
think
memory is
is
hysterical. Oh my god.
no, this is great. This is the
I
fun of it.
Yeah, I
Okay.
literally
So,
commented in our rankings about like why I ranked Suspiria the where it did was about dance as magic. So,
and so here, but here's the thing, Susanna, do not feel bad. This segment had began before we had our one sentence summaries. One sentence summaries replaces the original segment for our retrospectives, which was
Matt,
Matt
like,
misremembers shit. That was the title of the segment. And it was all
Oh.
about how his ADHD, he would watch every single one of these movies with me. And then I would ask him to give me a summary of what each movie was about. And he could not remember shit about any of them. It was the most fun part. So that's what this game is, the exact same vibes. It's the ADHD test.
It's the
We're all
ADHD
ADHD
game.
except for Emily.
Okay.
Um, but Emily's still
I have
neurospicy,
ADHD by
so
osmosis.
yes, that too. So it's like so it's
Yeah,
just that's the fun of the game. Um,
yeah.
so the next one I think is easy too. Traumatize people, traumatize people with hearts.
With arts?
Hearts. Heart.
Ah, ah,
Okay, that's
hang on,
the
my mic is
one with
being
the
moved.
My Bloody. Was it My Bloody Valentine?
Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
it's
Yeah.
My Bloody Valentine. That's what I was gonna guess. I was just messing with the microphone.
You said it.
Who do you think said it, Susanna?
I don't know.
I think it was me.
Yeah, maybe you. That feels, yeah, it feels like
Feels
you.
like me.
Yes. I should
It feels
also
like your
read the
brand of
one sentence
autism.
summaries that each of us said for these two.
Oh yeah.
So that was yours.
Hmm.
Susanna didn't have one for this one. Mine
Okay.
was My Bloody Arbor Day.
It was not filmed at the right time of year.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. I also think this one will be easy. So we have a few easy ones in a row. Jason in 3D.
Oh my gosh. Friday the 13th 3D. I'm not even waiting the 5 seconds.
Yep. Who said it?
Say it again.
Jason in 3D.
That feels like Emily.
I think it's Pace.
It is, in fact, Pace.
Oh wow.
Emily's what? Emily's what? But listen to Emily's. Emily's is so Emily. Jason's mom has got it going off. That was Emily.
Oh
I can't believe
no.
that was mine. This is fantastic.
Right?
Oh, I think our retrospectives might be some of my favorite ones just because of this game.
Yes. Right? Exactly. We should turn this into a drinking game. Like get a shot anytime we
Mhm.
get it wrong, right? But people be so drunk, so maybe not. But
It's true. It
make
feels
up your own
likely.
rules. It's fun.
Yeah.
Um, okay, next one. A space where most marginalizations can come together and have coffee together, like the cafe of marginalizations.
That's me. 100%. It was, how does this relate to coffee? Is the question. And I like that. Is,
Oh.
Correct. Correct. That was you.
Okay, one more time.
I remember this. I know the movie. Come on, Emily.
It is a space where most marginalizations can come together and have coffee together, like the cafe of marginalizations.
Like, part of me wants to say it's. Oh,
You remember Susanna?
It's Wicked. It's 100%
that was
Wicked.
that was the one that keeps coming back to me, but I was
It
like,
was
I don't
Wicked.
know.
Yep,
Okay.
it was Wicked. Mine was Goth versus Prep the musical, and yours was Follow the Yellow Brick Road to Fashion.
To fascism? Yes.
Yes.
Yep, yep, yep.
Okay, here's the next one. This one's really hard because this applies, well, you'll see. It applies to all horror movies pretty much. The one sentence summary is A cab.
I have no idea what movie that is, but I am guessing that's
I
Emily.
I think it's Pace. Um, and I think it's a wonderful knife. No, 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 it's Thanksgiving.
You
It's
got it. Yes,
Thanksgiving.
it
Yes.
is.
Yes.
And it was Pace who said that. Emily's, though, is similar vibes.
Yeah.
Emily's is cops, capitalism, and colonialism.
Yep. Yeah. Yes.
Next one. Chocolate should be a treasure for everyone.
Not me.
Matilda.
That feels like Emily. Is it Emily?
Mhm. Yep, exactly right on all accounts.
Okay.
Uh, Mine was a little too obvious. Mine was Miss Honey is Bay, and
Mhm.
Susanna's was if you're doing espionage, don't wear ribbons, which I thought was also all of ours were kind of obvious for that one,
Yeah, but yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. I love Matilda.
right? Next, consent is sexy and liberative in small town America.
That's the witches of Eastwick, right? I love that I'm like, that's the wait, am I? Okay, hang on. Consent is sexy in small
And
town Mer
liberative
and
in small
liberative.
town America.
I think it's the witches of Eastwick, but they don't uh they don't do the consent thing a lot. Wait. Wait.
I love this so much.
Because it could be the covenant.
Mm.
I'm gonna go covenant.
Nope. Also not Witches of Eastwick, although it could have kind of applied to those too. It
Okay.
was Elvira, Mistress of the Dark.
Yeah. She
Who
just
said it?
slides in.
That she does. How's
I
your
mean,
head? Susanna, was that Emily who said that or Pace?
Say it again.
or Susanna.
Say it
Susanna
again.
wasn't on that episode.
I wasn't on that one.
Cons Consent is sexy and liberative in small town America.
That feels like Emily.
That was Emily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine was a gothic Wizard of Oz, which makes me think back to Emily. The un What Emily said earlier this about the season is the unintentional way these seasons tend to turn out to be about something other than we intend, and how the
Yeah.
season turned out to be about the Wizard of Oz.
Yep. Yeah.
Because Elvira is basically a story of Wizard of Oz intentionally. That was what she wanted it to be as she wrote it. She was inspired with that. So next,
Okay.
this one I feel like is a little obvious. Every time a bell rings, someone dies.
It's a wonderful knife.
Yep,
Oh, I didn't wait my 5 seconds.
it's
Sorry,
okay.
listeners. Every once in a while, it's just too obvious.
Yep. Who said that, Susanna? Every time a bell rings, someone dies.
Pace? Is that a
I
pace?
think so.
It is a pace. Emily's was Battery Lights Queer Love beats Capitalist Murder.
Yep.
And JM, who was our guest, was triumphing over the fears of coming out as a late bloomer in the shadow of your homonormative family members, which is also very accurate for that movie. Such a good movie.
And
We
very
stand.
accurate for JM.
Yep.
Yeah.
Uh, Next one. Queers pick up a fag hag and they unveil the patriarchy.
That feels like something I would say.
hmm hmm
Yep, that's a Susanna original. And that's only one half of your one sentence summary. But
Oh
anyway,
god, there was more?
Too.
yeah.
You had a
But let's
two
see if,
one sentence summaries, or
Oh.
occasionally.
Sometimes I'm wordy.
Okay. My gut instinct was the Covenant, but then I also was like struck by the Blair Witch Project. Um, and I'm trying to think of like what are the ones left because
I
I have
also cannot remember what movie I
no
said that about.
recollection of Black Sunday whatsoever. The witches, I think I will remember now because I asked Pace literally like 4 or 5 times today what the witches was about. Um, wouldn't be Haxon.
Which witches was it?
It's not Wizard of Oz.
it
There's a
was the
couple
one with
movies.
Angelica Houston.
Okay.
We haven't got there yet.
Yeah.
So it's not the witches, spoiler.
Okay. Uh, read it one more time.
Queers pick up a fag hag and they unveil the patriarchy. So think about a group of queer people
I think
with
it's the Covenant.
a woman who Literally unveils
What?
a patriarchy. A man behind the curtain, so to speak.
Oh, The Wizard of
Yep.
Oz.
And Susanna's other one, yep. Susanna's other one was fruit flies grab a ripe little strawberry and she unveils the patriarchy. I love that one.
I totally like not at all on that one. Whew. What was mine on? Do you have all of ours or no?
Yes. Yours,
I
this
don't
you
know.
can tell this was the second episode of the season because what
Yeah.
even were we thinking? Charlatans take on the dream with reverse property destruction. And mine is Dorothy gets caught between the rivalry of the witches.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah, that was fun. Okay, the next one.
That was good. That was a good one.
A
I've
ripe
only
little
missed like
strawberry. Yeah,
two.
you've been doing good.
Yeah. They've been
I
fun
haven't
though.
been keeping track though. I should have
That's fine.
been. Oh well.
That's fine.
I don't
That's
Next
fine.
one.
remember saying these things, but I can tell which ones are something I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. But I just would like to be clear, I don't remember saying these things.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't remember saying most of this shit either. Um, a history of sexism and classism.
Jackson.
Correct.
Because it was a history of witches.
Yep.
It's all about sexism and classism.
Who
Um,
was that, Susanna? Emily or Paris? A
That it was
history
like
of
an Emily?
sexism and classism. Correct.
yep.
Okay.
I
Mine
think it's
was
also easier for me when when it's mine because I do have some version of memory, and so I'm like, yeah, that tracks. Anyway,
Yep.
what was
Mine was
yours?
witches get the silent film treatment.
Ah,
Mm.
that's a good one. But yeah, that would have been really obvious.
Oh my god.
Next, a
Okay.
new offbeat Christmas special about the Princess of Moldavia and her look-alike ancestor.
That
What?
what?
Right? A new offbeat Christmas special about the Princess of Moldavia and her look-alike ancestor.
I don't know, but it sounds like Emily
It was Emily.
because they're obsessed with Christmas specials, and I get like 40 some days of Christmas specials every
Hmm.
time it is fall. Terrible
Yep.
ones, like the really bad Netflix ones, like the really bad
Yep.
cisgender heterosexual Netflix ones.
Yep.
Yeah. Um, was that one Black Sunday?
Yep.
Okay. I remembered the movie, and then I just had to figure out what the title was for the movie. Yes, Black Sunday.
Mine was witch beings, vampires.
Yeah, that tracks. That was, a movie, and now we've
Yep.
seen it.
I need to get Gandalf, so I'm going to say the next one, and then y'all can vamp on who you think said it and what movie it is. So I quick grab Gandalf. But this
Okay.
one
Okay.
is the things we do before we realize we are gay.
Ooh.
That is something I would say.
Yes. And if you're the one saying it,
Then it has to be a video one.
then what?
Then it has to be a video podcast.
No, they're all video podcasts. I'm not paying attention to which is Patreon and which is not. But if you're the one saying it, that makes me want to say The Witches of Eastwick. But let me think to make sure.
I do not
Because I
remember which
think
one it is.
the other ones, yeah, I think we're down to The Blair Witch Project, Halloween Town, The Covenant, The Witches, and the Witches of Eastwick. And of those, the Witches of Eastwick have the most, like,
I don't realize I'm gayness about it.
yeah,
Yeah.
lots of sex with a guy.
Yeah. While
Yeah,
hanging out with your women friends all the time.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the Witches of Eastwick.
Yeah.
I like this. I like this. Oh, and that's perfect timing. I can't wait for Pace to listen to this part of the episode again.
I'm scared.
You should be. Um, we decided that it's the
Okay.
Witches of Eastwick,
Uh-huh.
and that Susanna said it.
Correct. On all
Aha!
accounts.
We had a great
Uh,
conversation about it, by the way, and
I
finished
love it.
right when you were sitting back down. So you should definitely re-listen to it
I
at
mean, I
some point,
will.
which you will, because you do the thing. Okay. That was a
Let's
really
see.
good. Susanna and I worked together really well on
I'm
that one.
excited. I'm excited. So, Suzanne, Emily, yours was queer chosen family or misogynistic asshole gathering a harem.
Yep, that sounds like me and that
My
movie.
Mine was sexist asshole pretends to be woke and feminist to get the ladies.
Yep, that sounds accurate as well.
Okay, next. Sorry, I just saw the next one.
I can't wait.
There's going to be no surprise about any of about who said this at very least. Okay. I hate this movie.
That feels like Emily?
That
No.
No?
is the most fucking pace thing of all time.
Yep, I think it was the Blair Witch Project.
Nope. Good guess
No.
though. Good guess. It is the one you could not remember anything about.
That was my next guess because I was like, it's not Halloween Town because you didn't hate it, but the witches, yeah. Oh God,
Um,
the witches.
so mine was I hate this movie. Yours was Mice for Good or Mice for Evil.
Yeah, I messed up the rankings. I will just own that now
That's the fun of that too. I can't wait.
because I
Because
come up with
because
that, and then I'm like starting to like remember about the movies, and then I'm like, oh, that yeah, I ranked that one way higher than I should have. Okay.
I guess we uh that's what we talk about the movies for when we do our rankings. I'm so excited because well, we'll get there. We have this whole way of talking about it. Anyway, next one. Even the healthy families are dysfunctional too.
That is something I would say. Was there air quotes on healthy?
Mhm.
If there was air quotes on healthy, then that feels like something I would say.
Hmm.
Yep, exactly right.
The question is, the Halloween Town or the Covenant?
Both fits for both, honestly.
Right? So I was like, I
Yeah.
feel like it fits with both. But I think that it's the Covenant.
Nope, it is Halloween Town. Yours was Grandma Witch reminds the family of who they are just in time.
Yeah.
And mine was a TV show's worth of ideas tries to fit itself into a made-for-TV movie.
Yeah, that's accurate.
Yep.
All of
Yep.
those are accurate.
Now, the last one, which you already, since you narrowed it down to the two. Well, two more actually.
I was gonna say there are two more.
Two more. Sorry. But
Next
this
time
is
we should
too
just have an
easy.
extra movie and not have that one. And then there's always two.
Yeah, love it. So the next one is This Gay.
The Covenant.
Yes.
That feels like pace.
It was in
Yes.
fact Pace.
Yep. I what?
No, I just misread something for a second. So I get lost in this document. Let me tell you, this is try. So for a little bit behind the scenes fun before we get to our very last movie, um, Pace goes through an entire, at this point, almost a year's worth of episode outlines and tries to decipher from our spotty note taking what these one
Speak for
sentence
yourself.
summaries are.
Speak for yourself. I am the one who types out all of Susanna's one sentence summaries
No,
and
your
half the time everybody else's.
spotty note, yes. Emily is the lifesaver for that,
Mhm.
and they became consistent doing that about a third of the way through the season.
Oh. I thought
Which
I was
I am
consistent
so
for this
grateful
whole
for.
season. We didn't become consistent about the one sentence summaries in general until like halfway through season 4,
Yeah,
I think is what it was. I thought
I
I was
think you're right
consistent
there.
this whole time. Dang.
You were on our main feed episodes for the most part, but there are a few
Oh,
spots like with the stuff, but Patreon episodes were like I don't think either of us were tracking at first, but we started to
yeah,
track later.
gotcha.
So that's why some of the movies that we covered, like Friday the 13th Part 2, I don't have any ones for, so that's why they weren't included
Yeah,
for that.
I had a moment where I was like, wait, Friday the 13th part 2 is gonna, and I was like, no, it's not on the list. It's not gonna
Nope.
come up.
Nope. So, and then of course we don't have one sentence summaries for movie commentaries because it's kind of hard to do while you're watching a movie.
Right.
Um,
Watch the movie and then summarize while
yeah.
the credits are rolling.
So our very last one though, lessons in how not to go hiking.
The Blair Witch Project.
Definitely Blair
Yes.
Witch, but I have no idea who said that one.
Let me read the other two, and maybe that will
And we can just
help.
like figure out who said each one.
Let me go back up to it. Here we are. Okay, so the first one is lessons in how not to go hiking. I'll read all three and then we can guess. The second one is 90 minutes of woods and 30 seconds of witch. The third one is if Clerks director Kevin Smith did a movie about his nightmares, it would be this.
Hmm.
Clerks, that was me.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
So process of elimination, 90 minutes of woods and 30 seconds of witch,
And it wasn't you?
and lessons in how not to go hiking.
I
Those are
guess
the
that.
last two.
So it wasn't Emily? Was it
For
Emily?
which one? For which
Which
one?
one?
For Blair Witch.
No, but which of those two
There are two,
summaries that
yeah.
Pace just read?
Summary number one, 90 minutes of woods and 30 seconds of witch. Summary number two, lessons in how not to go hiking. One is Emily, one is Pace. Which is which?
I
I
think
think
I know.
I think lessons in how not to go hiking. Oh no.
Wait, is it lessons in
That
hell
would be Emily.
not to go hiking or lessons in how not to go hiking?
How?
That feels like Emily.
Okay. Yeah, that feels like me.
The question of like how
Correct.
many minutes we're in the movie we're on what thing is a pace thing.
Pacing.
Because
Yeah,
Pace pays
I
very
thought
much attention to that.
I was hearing lessons in hell,
Oh,
colon,
how?
not to go hiking. And I was like, I wouldn't say that a lesson you learn in hell is don't go hiking. But I would definitely say this is how to not go hiking. So,
Yep.
yep. Got it.
Sweet. Now, next section. Major theological themes. And we're not going to talk about them in depth because we've already done that in our deep dives, but we will just
Mhm.
kind of say these are some of the things that showed up. These might have surprised us. These might have whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so I have three.
hmm They're
The
very good three.
yeah. I'll start with it out of the order from the way I put it in here, but I'm gonna just say chosen family first. And the reason I'm saying that is because I feel like that is a theme for 90% of the movies we cover, regardless of the season.
I
And I
think we
think it's just
gravitate to them.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I think A, we gravitate to them, and B, I think again, horror is a genre that deals a lot. Horror and sci-fi, which we've covered more than any other genre, are two genres that deal a lot with chosen family in a way that most other films don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I think also Chosen Family is just so queer.
It's
It's
yeah.
so
so
queer.
queer.
And so we're always gonna have Chosen Family, but also
Yep.
like the concept of like witch and coven go so tightly together that like
Yeah.
it makes sense that like Chosen Family Coven would come up a bunch this season, especially. But yeah, we do cover that a lot.
And that's a great transition to queer allegories abound.
Abound.
Witches are very queer. I mean, there's
Yeah,
just no way around it, and that's been shown intentionally and unintentionally throughout this entire season.
yeah, for sure. For sure.
And
Even if
I
they're a bunch of
especially like with almost all the witch movies, when the witches are given some sort of agency beyond just being a villain, like a cardboard cutout kind of villain. Witchcraft involves some sort of claiming of identity that
Hmm.
is often usually connected to the chosen family as well, and also connected to their magic, and how those three things are intertwined is very interesting to me throughout this. And then the last one, this season and Star Wars, just again and again, this
hmm
binary thinking,
Hmm.
Yeah.
and how it's particularly talked about in light and dark. So light side of the force, dark side of the force, or white magic, black magic, light magic, dark magic.
Yeah.
And the way that's also it comes out in other binaries like man, woman, uh
hmm
spiritual, physical, earthly,
Physical.
those kind of things.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and like, I mean, we're non-binary podcast hosts.
Yep.
So
Yep.
like it makes sense. All of these major like the major themes make sense. Um, I will shout out God's Holy Darkness,
Yeah.
which we've shouted out before on the podcast. Also, I really love the book Sulwe, which I used to read
Mm.
before God's Holy Darkness came out. They're both kids' picture books, and they're fantastic at really digging into, in a very like kid-friendly, kid-level way, the gift of darkness,
Yeah.
and the complexities of it. Like Sulwe
Yeah.
really digs into colorism, um, for this little kid. Um, because there is so much richness in darkness, right? Like
Yeah.
everything comes from a darkness. It was dark, and then God said, "Let there be light." Like creation comes out of darkness, the rich, dark earth of the soil, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, so, yeah.
Yeah. Um, One thing I do, I'll shout out now. I'm going to try to make it happen this year too, is PJ story time with Pace. If you have a kid who of any age, um,
I went once.
yeah, Emily went once. Uh, they're they're
Mhm.
welcome to a story time with me. It's free, and just if you have a kid, just reach out to me through our email horrornerds@church@gmail.com, and I can give you the information for this. But basically, I read a kid story over Zoom. Kids show up in their PJs, bring a stuffed animal usually, and we talk about the story. And God's Holy Darkness is a story that I read every single year just because it's so good. And I
Mhm.
think that there's no such thing as reading that one in particular too many times.
Hmm.
Yep.
I just well, I'll talk. no more book talk. That's all next episode. I was just going to
Oh yeah.
talk about more about the books in a book I'm going to read, but all that's for the next one. So, uh, anything else for major theological themes? Or, oh, baptism. That's one thing. There is so much
Mhm.
water. And I think that comes back to this being our unintentional Wizard of Oz season. But
Yeah.
water shows up again and again and again in destructive and redemptive ways. And
Hmm.
it's done really intentionally and wicked, um, too. And that's another reason why I think that was a kind of cool capstone to our season.
Yeah. Yeah, I there's not a lot of like communion type of stuff, but there is a lot of baptismal stuff, especially like when we're connecting witchcraft to like evil and devil worship, right? Like there's
Hmm.
a point counterpoint in baptism, and in water imagery in that respect, um, that I really appreciated. I also like I don't know exactly like maybe it's just in the like chosen family thing, but there's just this like connectedness and resistance, and
Hmm.
it's not I don't think it's a like consistent theme that like the protagonist is always the one doing it, but I think it comes up a bunch, right?
Yeah.
Like bed knobs and broomsticks. There is a connection that doesn't make sense, but also then a resistance
Yeah. This claim,
against
and it's
something.
kind of this tied to this claiming of identity and claiming of power is
Hmm.
tied to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I one movie that I'm thinking of, not movie, this is one of the movies. Why do I keep saying movie? One of the TV shows we covered for a BooTube. And again, Patreon, this is our Patreon stuff, $5 to sign up. You get access to BooTubes, and BooTubes we cover TV shows and The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina.
Mm.
We only covered the pilot episode of that,
Yeah. I still
but
need to
that
finish watching that.
hits every single one of these things we talked about. Chosen
Hmm.
family, about resistance, about
Hmm.
baptism. She has a dark baptism on her 16th birthday or whatever, and stuff like
Yeah.
this. It's just
Yeah.
very
Well, in
interesting.
A Discovery of Witches also, which is
Yeah.
one that we haven't done a BooTube on, um, but might this summer.
Yeah,
Um,
we'll figure it out.
yeah, but that also, Susanna was the one that like was like, you have to do Discovery of Witches, and she's
Hmm.
right. Um, but it is so queer, even in its like comedy part. There's
Yeah.
just so much queerness in it, and there's so much like finding your identity, claiming your identity, and like
Yeah.
moving into that power,
Yeah.
um, in a resistive way, which
Yeah.
is really, yeah.
And this is just testament to the fact that we're going to do so every single season we've done, we've said we're going to do a second follow-up season just because there's so much we wanted to get to, but we just didn't
Hmm.
fit in. And Domino Day is not one I've seen, but one that Susanna has been talking about
Yeah.
nonstop this season as one that talks about the light and darkness themes in more redemptive ways and also is intentional about race and racism and how that shows
Hmm.
up in witchcraft. And so that's a show we definitely want to get to in a future season.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. And some of our books we'll talk about next episode. We'll touch on that too.
Yeah.
So
With
now to
that, I
our,
have found
yeah,
all of the movie posters. And I
yes.
have
So
them
I'm
on the
just gonna
screen
say,
now.
here is the time, Susanna. I'm glad. Perfect segue. We're now going to do our ratings of our movies, and this is going to include movies, all the ones that Susanna has on screen, movies that we
Hmm.
only covered for our Patreon supporters, too. So if you are like, wait, I don't remember you all talking about this, it's on Patreon, y'all. There's so much cool content on Patreon.
Hmm.
We have, this is a little advertisement for ourselves. We have, for our $5 tier, which is our horror nerd tier. $5 a month, you get access to 2 episodes on every single month. One is a movie commentary, where we watch a movie together. You cue it up to our soundtrack and just listen to our commentary as we watch the movie. And the other is a BooTube where we cover a TV show and basically do what we do for movies, but do it about a TV show. And then if you are a horror buff, which is our $10 tier, you get access to a special extra bonus episode on a movie. And that this season we've done both of our Friday 13th movies were uh, in that tier. The Witches was in that tier, and some of the other movies we're talking about. So Patreon's a cool place to be. Support us and you're supporting queer and trans owned business,
Indeed.
supporting the resistance, queer
Yeah.
art.
Yeah.
So now, as Susanna's amazingness showed all the movies, we're going to rate the movies from our least favorite to our most favorite.
As
And
of before this episode, when I didn't remember half of them.
so Emily will say theirs, then I will say mine. And as we go through, the rule is we cannot talk about why we rated that movie in the place we rated it until we both say the movie in our ratings. And this is a format that comes from Matt Gorley on several of his podcasts, with Gorley and Russ, being the one that he does on horror franchises with
Hmm.
and so awesome podcast. But a lot of podcasts do this beyond just that, like Halloweenies does this. And so our podcast does this as well. So basically, I will say, Emily will say their least favorite, I'll say mine. And if we agree, we'll talk about it. If not, we'll just keep going till we both have named another film.
FYI, I just want to say to our listeners, watchers, if you're wondering what program I use to do this, it's Heptabase, which is a combination. It's like if Notion and Miro had a baby.
Oh,
So
wow.
it is you can have a whiteboard, and it does tags very differently. Each tag can have its own set of fields to it. So like these are all the ones that are tagged movie, and then the fields that I've attached to the tag movie are Pace's rating, HNAC's rating, Emily's rating. It's a different way to think about things, and the best
Yeah.
benefit of it is that it does pull in when necessary Readwise's highlights. So it's really wonderful for dissertations and long form writing, where you're highlighting into Readwise from various sources, and then you want them to be pulled into a mind map. But I use it for an ADHD brain of organizing
We
things.
need
So
to we need
Yep.
to do another mini-sode. We did this a while ago, but we've changed, both podcasts have changed so much. But Nerds at Church and Horror Nerds at Church 2 years ago did a joint mini-sode where we talked about the behind the scenes of making a podcast. I think we
Yeah.
should need to update that because we've been doing new programs and new stuff, and Horror Nerds at Church now does live video in addition to audio. So like we just do so much
Hmm.
more. So it'd be kind of cool to share some of our knowledge about that. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, we
Maybe
can
we
do
can
so
do
it.
it
I would be happy
this
to do a
summer.
how to live stream your podcast for your Patreon supporters.
yeah, hey
Yeah.
there.
So there's some
Hey
value
yo.
for only
Yeah,
$5 a month.
there's so much value. And the other thing you get for only five, or for the $10 tier, the horror buff tier, which is allegedly one of the most valuable things in addition to what Susanna's also amazing most valuable thing is you get a horror movie or otherwise recommendation from Pace or Emily,
Dr. Pace.
Okay.
from
Dr.
Dr.
So
Pace.
Pace.
so here's the thing though. Pace will not give this due credit. Pace has a magical talent. Like
I'm a witch. I'm a movie witch.
Pace is literally movie witch. Pace has a magical talent, skill, whatever, that they can figure out what is a perfect movie for you. Particularly in horror, like how to help you get into horror or take it to the next level. I, however, am happy to recommend more Disney style level movies or holiday themed movies. Doesn't have to just be Christmas. Um, and
I
you
can do that too,
actually,
but Emily has a talent in that.
I have that talent. I can't guarantee mine are as good as Pace's. Pace's are spectacular, but I'm gonna just say, if you're a horror buff, you get a recommendation from Pace and a recommendation from me. Mine is more for shits and giggles, but Pace's are spectacular.
Well, thank you. That's very kind. But I have heard this
And
from many
true.
people. So it is apparently my superpower. Uh,
Hmm.
my superhero power, my supervillain power is disruption of technology, but that's a story for another day. I even have a supervillain name, which is the most perfect supervillain name for this power, which is the Luddite,
Yes.
since my superpower is disrupting technology.
Yeah.
But anyway, on
I
to
frequently refer to
with
myself
drum
as a
roll.
Luddite, so yeah.
Ooh, can Susanna, since you have fancy sound stuff, is it easy enough to put in like a drum roll or like applause or something?
Yeah, I mean, I can. Where is my applause button? I haven't learned them all yet. Here it is. Okay, we're clapping. Here we
Yay!
go.
Applause, applause. So, without further ado, Emily's least favorite movie of the season is
Black Sunday.
Okay, I have
mine is
23. Okay.
mine is Black Sunday. So we can talk about
Wow.
it.
I think this is
So,
the first time that we've actually been able to talk about our least favorite on the
no,
list
I
for
feel like
this.
this has been pretty consistent because we've
Really?
one of our times the least favorite was uh the Last Temptation. Not the Last Temptation,
The
sorry.
Passion.
The Passion of the Christ was our least favorite one
Hmm.
season.
That's true because that
Sometimes
was
I
the
think there's a
Twilight.
very obvious choice, and this one
It's true.
is no exception.
It's true.
And that's not to say this movie is bad, but it is not
Not
good.
good.
Like, of all the movies we covered, it was one that all of us went into, including our guest, without really remembering or not knowing anything about it and just
Mhm.
going on it based on the
I
description
literally
and the
picked it
title
because it
alone.
said Black Sunday. And I was
Sounds
like,
churchy, sounds religion, sounds horror nerds at
and it
church.
was not.
Yeah, it was not good. Um, but we still had a really good conversation with our guest, Kira or
Hmm.
Catherine Bach, Clarenbach, Bach, Clarenbach.
Yeah, the
So
the caliber of conversation is not related to the movie
yes,
on this one.
but the movie was just, it was fine. It was a 1950s
Yeah.
movie that really didn't make much sense. And
Yeah. And it's like, are they witches? Are they vampires? Are witches vampires and vampires witches? I don't know.
right, they didn't even seem to know.
Yeah.
So now, Emily's next in the ranking is,
Friday the 13th 3D.
and they can't say anything else about it. Mine is The Blair Witch Project.
And they
Dun
can't
dun
say
dun.
anything else about it.
Yep. Next for Emily.
Friday the 13th, part 2.
Next for me. Fighting words, I think we're getting here. Halloween Town.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow, that's fighting. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, I think both of ours are fighting.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, next is Emily's.
The Blair Witch Project.
So we can talk about it. The Blair Witch
Woo!
Project. Um,
Jana has her finger up.
yes.
I'm just holding on. What was Paces again?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
We both have named the Blair Witch Project. So now we
We talk
talk
about
about
Blair Witch.
the Blair Witch Project.
Okay, but Pace hasn't named their
I
number
haven't
one.
said
Pace
my
has
next
not
one
yet
yet.
revealed.
Okay.
So,
Um,
the Blair Witch Project.
mhm. It was not good. It was not all it was hyped up to be
Yeah,
when I first heard about it and was confused about it.
yeah.
Uh,
It
yeah. It's
I
just
will. It was a phenomenon when it came out because it was
Mhm.
doing kind of a novel thing. But
Yeah.
that was really the only thing about it that it had going for it. There really wasn't much else there.
Yeah. It was
And
it was a bad movie, but it was also like a breakout
yeah,
genre movie, and
so
I
yeah.
didn't watch it back then.
Oh, you did. Oh, that's right. I
No,
remember this.
I'm the one that picked the Blair Witch Project because I
Yeah.
didn't watch it back then, and I wanted to, and like I don't know, maybe I would have liked it more if I had watched it back then, but probably not. But
Right. Probably not.
probably not, but there's a lot that goes into why that is a probably
Yeah.
not. Um, but to watch it now when there've been many more mockumentaries, fake documentaries, those sorts of things, is just a whole different experience. And so
I
it's
love
no
it. Yeah.
longer the breakout movie of
Yeah.
this genre. It's one of many and not great.
And yeah, and many of them do it much better. So,
Hmm. Yeah.
so yeah, there we go.
And now
Next,
Pace's
yeah,
is
now I gotta say mine, which is The Covenant. Interesting.
Mm.
Okay, Emily,
My Bloody Valentine.
mine is The Witches. Next,
Jackson. Pace?
The Witches of Eastwick.
Mhm. Mm.
Now on to whichever number we're on. Emily.
17.
17th least favorite or something. Witches of Eastwick.
Yay!
Ah, we get to talk about it.
Sweet. So, Witches of Eastwick.
Which we're like about on the same page on this one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is interesting because that means that we're both kind of at the middle for us, and
Eh,
yet Emily's and my ones beneath this were not it. Um, in the same way, I mean, like we both had very different ones. So,
yeah.
Witch of
I can
Eastwick.
explain more, but not until.
Yeah, I like it. It's fine. It
Yeah.
was
It's
part,
so.
yeah, it didn't age well for
Oh,
me.
yeah.
When I was a kid and I saw it, and this is part of the conversation we had on the episode, and I think you agreed with this too, Susanna, is like it was formative in our like queer coming of age kind of
Mm.
and feminist awakening. And also it really didn't age well. And
Mm-mm.
it
Yeah.
we got into this whole conversation about queerness versus feminism and the especially like the second wave feminism and the way that feminism filtered through cis male objectification is the
Oh,
avenue for path of liberation that just was like there's a lot of problems with it. And we'll talk
yeah.
about how different the book is in our lit retro. We did a little bit in that episode, but we'll talk about more in the lit retro
Yeah.
because the book has a very different story.
Yeah. And I didn't read the book, but yeah, I didn't see this before. So this was my first time seeing it, and it just did not age well. Right? Like it's just a misogynist asshole, and it just
Yeah.
gets worse and abusive and manipulative and like
And like
yeah.
yes, the whole point is he's a bad person. He's Satan, so we're not supposed to like him. He's the villain and he's a misogynist, and that's his villainy. And also the film then still falls into these misogynistic tropes where the women free themselves from him, but have his child.
Right?
And it turned into this weird motherhood thing. It's like it just
Yeah.
Yeah,
like
but
it tried so
also
hard and it didn't get so far to quote Linkin
Try
Park
so
misquote
I'm
Linkin
not
hard.
Park.
I'm not saying it's a
Try
better
so
movie than what you
No,
said,
I
okay?
know.
But I am saying there is one place where it still felt really relevant and
Oh, for sure.
aged fine, and it is white, cis, progressive, male, straight pastors. They do this to a T Still today, they're like, oh yeah, I'm so progressive. Aren't women great? They get such a bad rap. And they do that to endear themselves and really are still just as much an asshole. And so it's like was compelling about this movie to me is how much I still see this in progressive Lutheran circles with white
Right?
cis straight men. Yeah, that they are grooming everybody else with their
Mhm.
progressive statements, but they're still just as much an asshole as the next one.
I can
And
name I
go
can
ahead,
name
go ahead.
10 off the top of my head. I can name
Yeah.
10 off the top of my head. I will not get if we get 100 Patreon supporters, no, I'm kidding. We're not going to share a list of that. But like, no, for real though, like it's such a thing and it's so depressing. And that's one of the cool things I can't wait to talk about when we talk about the book more is the book. There is that even more intentionally in the way that John Updike, the author, was commenting as Unitarian Universalist about a specific type of progressive Unitarian Universalist pastor
Mhm.
that Daryl it
Yeah.
pretends to be. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, 100%. Agreed. Agreed. And also, like, I'm not going to also discredit how formative it was, and it really did have a positive experience on my own feminist awakening and queer awakening and trans awakening, all those things. So,
Yeah. But it was for real. It was definitely something that like
I mean,
I've seen a
Sapphic
hundred
women,
times.
come
Hmm.
on.
And the way that they groom each other, like the way that these
Yes.
men like
Hmm.
groom everybody else to be like groom specifically your friends into
Hmm.
thinking
Yeah.
that they're super great, so that you can be like, no, he's super great when he acts up. So it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
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 Dick Ain't That, which was my love witch, also so applies to this movie.
Yeah.
Um,
That's that's why I had trouble signing it.
exactly. Okay, well, next. And I will say from this point up, and we've only listed like three on their HNAC ranking. Honestly, from this point up, I would say all of these movies I like. Even Witches of Eastwick I like. So like from this point, it's like the harder to discern favorites. We had a few kind of stood out as maybe not that great, but then the rest I think are all good and above for me at least. And Emily can say otherwise. But next, for me, My Bloody Valentine. We can talk about it.
I My Bloody Valentine is one of the ones that falls victim to being an outsider in the general theme of the season.
True.
And so that made it harder for that and others which I cannot name yet. Uh, it was just harder for me to rate them because it was so out of the fruit. It was literally apples and oranges. They
Yeah.
might both be fruit, but like they're for very different times.
There was a hold on, there's this quote I just heard that is so good that I think is very similar to what you're saying. It is tomatoes and oranges are both fruit, but you would only put one
On a
in
salad.
a salad or something like
Although
that.
I would put
Something
oranges
some
in my salad.
I was gonna say
it
actually you put
wasn't
both,
oranges.
but
It
like
was I think it was something
yeah,
different, but it was
yeah, yeah,
that line. Yeah.
yeah.
100%. Yeah, I get it.
Um,
I get
and
it.
I and so that just kind of made it harder, but I also like it just wasn't. I was just like meh.
Yeah. For me, I have a soft spot. I rate it pretty high because I have a soft spot for Golden Age slashers. My Bloody Valentine, Golden Age slasher. One of
Yeah.
those where the plot, if the plot is hanging out on the wind and there's the slightest breeze, it will completely blow apart and disappear.
That's
And
accurate.
like go what was the other one? Terror Train we've covered, the original
Hmm.
Friday the 13th. Like these movies, there's just this like charm to them and nostalgia for me that like I'm
Hmm.
always gonna rate them pretty high. I love it.
That makes sense.
And also I admit it's not a great movie, but it
Yeah.
is part of my blood. It is part of the slasher genre, and it has the gory kills and all that stuff.
Hmm.
And
The
which is
laundry
why
list.
you go to see a slasher, if you're a cis straight man for the boobs, but if you're anybody else, you go for the gore. Um, you don't go for the plot. So
Which we've like clearly established it's not why I go to a movie. So,
yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So thank you, Susanna. You are amazing. Thank you for numbers. This is so helpful.
We have
So
a
we
guiding planning doc, in case it
yes.
was not obvious.
So our next
Tech is
movie,
not just like the putting it on the screen, it's also like the stuff in the background.
Hmm.
100%.
Susanna is amazing. Susanna is our super tech genius for a reason.
Indeed, she is.
Super witch tech magic,
Hmm.
cyber magic.
Yeah.
Um, so our 16th favorite movie, Emily.
The Covenant.
Nice.
So,
And we can talk about it.
yeah, I like there is an extent to which I kind of liked it. Like, and also it's a bunch of men, men, boys. Like,
Oh, I'm fascinated. I am so fascinated that you rated this higher than me because when we talked about this movie, I said, I love this movie and also it is objectively bad. And yet I put it so low, even though I love it. So I love that loving it in spite of its objective
Yeah.
badness carried over for you. I'm so grateful. It's like
No,
my
same.
it's my horror apprentice is becoming a true horror nerd. I love it.
Same,
uh,
same. No,
It's
I
same.
feel the same way because like it had good lore, it had a good plot, and then they just
Oh,
like murdered the plot.
I
It could have
have
been so much
yeah,
more.
it could have been more. They could have been not controlling assholes,
Yeah,
and treated the women as something more than property or
yeah.
lovers scorned. Um,
or something to save. Even though you're like, I
So
met you 3 days ago, but I must save you. Like
but I'm
it.
in
I
love with you for
totally
the rest of my life.
I totally forgot I'm supposed to be giving the ratings when we talk about this as a
Oh
podcast.
yeah.
So I'll go on this one, then we'll go back. So
Okay.
this one, I rate a 13 out of 10 slash a 6.5 out of 10 because it is
Excellent.
so gay. So I love it, but it's
It's
so
very
bad.
gay. Yeah.
Emily rated it a 5 and Susanna rated it a 6. So I think that it's funny that it's a 5 for you, yet rated so high for me. So high
Yeah.
for you and 6.5 for me.
But like 5 and 6.5, like that fits with it being where it is, I think.
Yeah.
Like that fits
So
in the ranking fairly well.
yeah. So to go back quick, Black Sunday, I rated it a 4. Emily rated it a 4, and our guest rated it a 4. Blair Witch Project, I rated 6.5. Emily a 4. Susanna a 5. And
All right,
what other
I'm not
one am I
gonna do
missing?
that.
Oh,
Next
Witches
time
of
I will do that
Eastwick.
though. Next time I will do
No,
that.
don't worry about it. Witches of Eastwick, I was 6.5. Emily was 7.5. Susanna was
Oh,
8. My
geez.
Bloody, right?
Who
This
are
is
we?
interesting, right?
It's
Uh,
because we had such a great conversation.
yeah,
Most of my ratings are at least half because of the conversation we have in the episode, but then I've forgotten that by the time we get to here.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And then the last one, I think,
so
is
far, yeah.
My Bloody Valentine was 7.5 for me, 4 for Emily, and 1.5 for Susanna. So I feel like that one tracks the most out of them so
Yeah,
far.
yeah. So far, that one tracks very well.
Okay, so now to my
Yours.
16th, which is Friday the 13th, part 2. And we did, this is the era where we were not um keeping taking notes as
Oh
well as we did
no.
later. So I do not know what we rated this one at the time.
Oh. Hmm. Interesting. So this is one of the ones, both, this is one of the Friday the 13th. And for the Friday the 13th, I was just like, I don't really remember them. They're part of a slasher series, so the plot is like not all that creative. Like it's different because it's the first couple, but like yeah. So that's like Friday the 13th part 2. Again, it's outside of the general theme of the season, and it's like slasher plot what plot kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Um so I was just like it's better
yeah,
than the 3D because the final girl is not in a relationship with a 40-year-old man.
right. But
Like,
right. But yeah, whereas I love this, and I think objectively within the horror genre, Friday the 13th Part 2 is considered like Fangoria has it in its top 100 horror movies of all time. It's considered by and large like a really good horror movie and a really, at very least, a very good slasher, like setting the tone for slashers. And yet, within the context of the season, it's like, where can you put it? And so I completely get where it is. And I mean, I love it. And that's why it's rated 17th for me. But like, again, at this point, for me, basically starting with where I put The Covenant, all of them I like. So at this
mm,
point forward, it's just uh splitting hairs, I guess is
fighting
the
words.
expression. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
oh, okay.
I think my um bar is lower but like higher than yours.
Sure.
Like I think this bunch where we're finally like matching up is my bottom half. I did mix up a couple where I would like, now that I remember them better, move probably Covenant and the next one up a couple. But
Yeah,
yeah,
makes sense. So next we get to number 15 for Emily
Thanksgiving.
for Pace Paxson.
And now we
She
talk
could
about
talk about it.
accent.
Yeah.
This one was
So
fine. I didn't have a problem with it. It just was like a silent film, which was really hard for me in the particular moment that we were watching it to like grasp.
yeah.
And it was history and it was long.
Yeah, and yet you rated it 8.5 and I rated it an 8, which I think tracks. It's a really good
Yeah,
movie. But
yeah,
again, for like you can consider our rating however you want, but part of it is also just like how much would we want to sit down and rewatch it again? It's going to be lower in my list than a lot of the other ones. It was very great to watch, and I'm glad I did,
yeah.
but
I'm glad I watched it.
do I need to watch it again? I
Yeah,
think I'm okay.
I did. Yeah.
So
Yep, yep.
beautiful. Next,
14
14.
favorite. Um, Mine was The Witches.
We could talk about it. Woo!
Whew. Literally, I put a comment on here that was, this one is just so unremarkable. I keep forgetting what it's about.
Yep.
Um, and I think I would move this one probably above between Witches of Eastwick and Covenant for me, and then just like move them down a couple. If I were to redo it, but we had to have a finalized list before the episode started, so
Yeah.
this is
So
where
it's
it made its
a
way.
5 for me and a 6.5 for you.
Okay.
And I
Actually,
think
tracks.
I just, for me, it's the Roald Dahl bullshit of
Hmm.
like, I just can't watch the movie without that. And it's like he's very anti-Semitic, and it's very much comes through in both the book, which we talked about extensively, and also the movie
Hmm.
in that episode. And it just doesn't, it's hard for me to watch. And that's why my one sentence summary was, I hate this movie. And like also I just watched it so much as a kid. Like it was we talked about in the episode, but it was one of those
Yeah.
that like I was oversaturated because it was one of those that in middle school, anytime it was close to Halloween and we had a half day or something, the teachers would put on this movie or Hocus Pocus. And so I watched each one probably like 100 times in elementary and middle school. So
Yeah. And I had never watched it. So I just had it with like grown-up eyes and
yeah.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
It was, though. I can see why you rate it higher, just because that was one of my favorite episodes recording this because we got into some of the we drug Roald Dahl's ass through his like anti-Semitism and
We
like
did. We did.
he's an asshole. And I'm glad we got into it. I'm a little
Yeah.
sorry it was for Patreon, but it was just that's where the conversation went. It was really good.
Yeah. Well, and we watched right after that was the Matilda stuff. And
Yeah,
so
and we
there
get
was
into a little
like
bit there,
we got
but
into it some on the main feed too, but we got into it the most on the witches. Yeah. If you were a Patreon subscriber, you get not only like randomness of like how badly we drag Roald Dahl, but also like some tea in our
yeah,
personal
that's
lives
true.
that we don't have on the public
Yeah,
feeds. So I'm just
get
saying,
to hear
so many
all the
reasons.
tea about pace, especially. Um, but about both of us, it's fun.
Yeah.
About all
Yeah.
of us.
Yeah.
So, next
What was
for me,
your
I guess,
14th
is
favorite?
14, which is The Wizard of Oz.
Ah, that tracks.
Number 13 for Emily.
The Witch.
Yay.
And this
Mm,
is at this point, I think, is where it starts to be like these are all my top half. I mean,
okay.
not like
Wait,
literally 50-50, but like
Yeah.
that's the point where I'm like, yeah, these all kind of are, yeah, maybe. I mean, if I had put the witches and the Vivitch up and Covenant and Thanksgiving down, that would be the, yeah, it's confusing. I have a chart here that I'm
Yeah.
referencing that nobody else can see in our on Facebook Live or
Yeah.
in their earballs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
What were
Anyway.
you saying, Susanna?
oh no, I was just lost, but I caught up. I'm
Oh,
okay.
cool. Yeah. So mine, we are on 13. And I agreed with what Emily said. Like mine are all top here too. Mine was The Wiz, which was a Patreon movie commentary.
Hmm. Yeah.
Number 12.
The Love Witch.
Ooh,
What about you?
Matilda the Musical, another
Mm.
Patreon movie commentary.
Hmm.
Number 11.
Wait, you're going too fast. Wait. Going too fast.
Ah,
Hold on a second. I got lost. I got lost. You had
You're okay.
Matilda the musical?
yeah.
What?
That's what Pace just rated. Now we're on to number 11. Elvira.
Yeah.
Oh, I should have said that.
Got it.
But
Okay. All right,
Emily's
cool.
number 11.
Yeah,
Now,
my
what? I
number,
missed 12. Hold on.
oh, my
You're
number
12.
good.
12 was The Love Witch.
And
Okay.
yes. And my number 12 was Matilda the Musical.
We're going fast
Oh.
because we don't have any matchy matches yet.
Yeah.
Wait, then what was your 13?
My
Pace. No
13,
paces.
oh,
The
The Wiz.
Wiz.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was looking at the. Okay, sorry. My bad.
The
My bad.
Wizard of Oz, and then The Wiz.
Okay,
It's
got it.
tricky. I almost did the same thing, but we can't talk about it yet.
Okay,
Yes.
I'm good now. Continue gazing
Okay.
forward.
So, number
Sweet.
11.
Yes.
My number 11 was Elvira, Mistress of the Dog.
Beauteous. Mine was It's a Wonderful Knife.
And now, our top 10 movies of the season.
Da, dun, dun.
Clap.
Matilda, the
Yep, crap.
music. Woohoo! Matilda, the musical.
Which means we could talk about it.
Yes. I have this was the first time I've seen Matilda the musical. I like Matilda. I grew up with Matilda. It's a soft spot. I love the actor.
Hmm.
I love everything. Um, and I didn't grow up knowing about Roald Dahl, which was good. Um, I mean, it's complicated, but
Yeah,
and I thought that the musical was like a pretty good adaptation.
agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. It was middle of the road for me. It was fun, but it was long. And I'm not, I said this maybe controversial. I'm not a musical queer. Like, I appreciate it. I'm not one of those that hates on musicals. I appreciate musical and I like music and songs can be catchy, but it's just not as fun for me as some of the other ones. So it was
Mhm.
good, just not my favorite. But I do like some of the intentional commenting on some of the stuff. It wasn't consistent on everything, but kind of commenting on some of Roald Dahl's awful shit
Hmm.
um, that the
Yeah.
musical was able to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so that was your number
Mine
10.
10. Your 10 is.
My number 10 is Kiki's Delivery Service, which
Mm,
was a movie commentary.
indeed.
Oh, did I? No, it was a
Oh,
movie
what did we
commentary. We
rate?
didn't rate
Oh,
it.
because it was,
There's the movie
yeah,
commentary.
yeah. Right, right, right. Number
Okay.
number 9.
Yeah, number 9 for Emily.
My number 9 was Suspiria.
This is the 2017 film,
Yes.
to be
If
clear.
you are curious what we think about the original,
Season
go
4,
watch that.
babies.
Watch it. Go listen to that episode.
Season 4, babes.
Mhm.
Okay, so my number, where are number 9. Now I'm the one getting lost. Elvira, Mistress of the Dark,
And
which
now we can talk
means
about it.
we can talk about it. Woo!
Indeed, indeed.
I love this movie. It's fun.
It's so
It's a
good.
fun movie. I, as we've been going through, I'm noticing just how much there's like this very like overt sexualization and sexual objectification aspect of
Hmm.
so very many of these movies, including Elvira,
Yeah.
Mistress of the
Hmm.
Dark.
We like our bad girls to have big boobs in America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which like not my favorite thing, but I mean, not that I
But
don't like boobs,
the one
but
thing
like
that
not
we
that that's not how I would categorize like my
The one
favorite
thing going for it,
protagonist.
though, that we commented on it at the time is that consent was the overarching kind of theme of
Mm,
this movie
it's
in
true.
a way that like it was showing sexual like sex, but this one was still very much the cishet gay or appealing to the cishet gaze, but then turning that around to talk about sex in healthy ways and healthy boundaries and stuff around sex, especially like
Hmm.
aimed at a young male audience. I was like, this is well done for like a comedy, like a horror
Yeah,
comedy.
yeah.
So that was one thing we both really liked about it. And just Elvira's classic. And Cassandra Peterson is queer, the person behind Elvira, who created Elvira, who plays Elvira. So just a fun movie for me. Love it. And where it gets
Yeah.
one of my favorite jokes that was formative in Emily's and my relationship, which is,
It's
hey,
true. It's
Emily,
true.
hey,
Especially when you
Emily,
have lots of migraines. It's frequent that I ask, "How's your head?"
haven't had any complaints.
How did we rate this one?
Yes, thank you. Did we keep track? I'm not sure we kept track of this. I'm gonna go find it.
We
Yes, we
should
did.
have.
Thankfully, we did.
Okay.
Unsurprising, no one probably knowing me. I rated it an 11 out of 10. Emily rated it a 9 out of 10.
It was a good movie.
It was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also like very damning of Christendom in a way that was fun.
Yeah.
And
It's true.
far right
I
politics.
forgot
It's like
about that.
Reagan America.
Yeah. I
This
forgot
is
about
fun
that part.
lampoon.
Yeah.
So now we can go to number 8. So number 8 for Emily.
Matilda.
Woo!
Woot woot.
Number 8 for pace, which means we could talk about this one because it's Thanksgiving, the
Woohoo!
Eli Roth slasher from
Yeah.
a few
I
years
for
ago.
I forgot about things. I forgot about the things I liked about Thanksgiving. So I probably would have, that's why Thanksgiving would have been higher
We
if
both
I were
rated
going
it
to give
high
it a
too.
right before this. But yeah,
You
I,
rated it 8. I rated it 8. We both rated it 8.
yeah, it was good. It was a cab. It was
Yeah.
like, it didn't go quite as far as I probably would have in terms of anti-colonialism, but,
Yes, for sure.
uh,
Agreed.
but it was very much like digging into capitalism and like those aspects and then had a like out of left field for me, but then like looking back was like, oh no, it was setting me up for this kind of thing for in terms of
Yeah.
who the slasher was. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
It was well done. It's really well done. And it's a new con I love this kind of slasher renaissance we're in. Starting with like really, I want to say the slasher renaissance started with Candyman 2021. And ever since then, we've been getting some really good slasher films,
yeah,
Thanksgiving among them. So,
yeah. It's a Wonderful Life. Oh wait, can't
yeah,
talk about it yet. Sorry.
not quite yet. So, but again, one that's hard to fit in with the rest of the season since
Yep.
which is
And that I think is a lot of why it didn't make the cut.
so number 7 for Emily,
The Wizard of Oz.
which we can talk about. Yay.
Classic. Classic Wizard of Oz, of course.
I love
Uh,
it. I
I
really struggled where I put this one, is what
I
I'll
did
say.
I did too. I almost had a Wizard of Oz whiz, and then I was like, "Ah, I can't put them right next to each other,
Yeah.
which I could have, because obviously you did. But it's hard because there is so much of like my childhood that is wrapped up in the Wizard of Oz. Like I watched the movie,
Yeah.
I was in the musical on in our like community theater, children's theater summer program thing. I was a Poppy and a Munchkin. Um, so like there's just so much in it. And I've read the books, which I'm excited to get into
Yeah. Me
later.
too.
But uh
Uh,
yeah,
we
I
both rated this really high too. Starting off the season, I mean, I gave this a 9 and you gave it a 9.5.
it was just really good. Well, and I would like it's
Like,
interesting to see how my ratings I'm a little curious now, like
yeah,
how the ratings go chronologically, even apart from the movies, because I know what happened in the world and in my life in this time and the like ups
true.
and downs. And I just wonder how much that impacted, like whether it was like resonating because it was a fuck you kind of movie, or if
Yeah.
I just like was not in a good place and so it was not great, or before
Yeah.
I upped my meds, after I upped my meds,
Right.
different
Right. All of
options.
it. I mean,
Yeah.
for me, the main reason I wanted to rate it, I put it higher in the list than I did, and this is what was reflecting that initial rating, is this movie is so formative in many aspects of from pop culture to identity to both you talking, Emily, about its effect on you as a kid and um being in the play and reading the books and like same with me and the movie and I have like memories of watching this at my grandfather's house who died when I was in second grade and stuff like just that, but then also the queerness of this movie and just how much it's become such a cultural touchstone.
Right.
So like
Literally
I
the Friends of Dorothy.
yeah, I could have I like in an if I was rating this in a different way for what I if I was rating this strictly and there's so many different ways we can rate this. If I was rating this in like what movies I think are some of the greatest movies of all time, this would be very high on the list. But this is um
Within the
within the
category of
context
witches and
of
witch.
witches and the season and
Hmm.
all of
Yeah,
that. That's
that's
where I'm
what
putting it.
I was talking about that with some of the other ones too.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
So,
yeah, it's so different. In
okay.
and now your
Which
seventh.
I know, which we can talk about now is
I was about to
Matilda.
talk about anyway. I was like gonna reference Matilda, and then I was like, wait, have we talked about Matilda yet? No, we haven't. When are we? Oh, it's next.
Yep.
My journey.
We both rated this 9. And even Susanna gave it an 8.5.
Yeah. I love Matilda, the original, like the movie. I am why we are watching it because I understand her to be a witch. And I love it. I love the way she acts and operates in the classroom and like the subversiveness and the way that she gets the whole class to work with her and like
Yeah.
she saves people. Like it's just fantastic. And the actor is like the most
And
adorable child actor ever in the history of ever and did
and
not
now like
turn
this
out to be like a terrible
awesome
person.
person that
Yeah.
they are now. It's just like fantastic.
Yeah.
And like this is Roald Dahl, like yes, the awfulness appears here, but also this is some of the stuff he did really well, which is talk about tough things for kids and the reality of
Mhm.
kids living in abusive situations and how to kind of stand up for yourself and build community and all this stuff. Like
Yeah.
really good stuff in there. And so uh and it's just so formative for me in that Miss Honey is who inspired
Hey.
me essentially to be a teacher. And I talked
Yeah.
about in that episode too. And that's, what I'm doing in my life is being a teacher. So,
Yeah. And being a great one at that.
oh, thank you. I
Dr.
appreciate
Pace.
that.
I don't
Love
always call you
that.
Dr. Pace, but when I do, it's with great flair and emphasis.
I should start wearing my gown to this.
Yes. Oh my gosh, can you please at least for the next one?
For a lit retro, sure.
Yeah, that feels
By
fitting.
then, hopefully, my hood will have arrived and I can even wear my hood.
Ooh,
So
very exciting.
now on to
Sixth favorite.
6. Yeah.
Mine is It's a Wonderful Knife.
Which means we could talk about it.
Indeed, it is an outlier, yes, but also a Christmas movie and a spoof on another Christmas movie and queer and
Yes.
a creepy KKK angel.
This is interesting because one of the things I think we both rated a 7.5. I think you and I were both intentional this season about we are going to rate things lower intentionally to give us more diversity. So a movie that we both freaking love and adore, we both
Hmm.
gave a 7.5.
Yep.
And then some of the movies as we get closer to the end are like rated really high. It's like compared to It's a Wonderful Knife, like that's such a good movie.
Right?
It's so
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I just loved it though. I I think that one is probably going to become one of the ones that I like to watch every year. Or
It's
at
one I
least
do.
I there are a couple that I won't watch every year. I have to be in the right mood for those Christmas movies, and I don't know if this is going to be that or every year, but it's definitely one that I will rewatch.
Spoilers. There are at least 5 horror movies I have to watch every year.
Of course.
So,
Of course. But like you introduced me to horror movies, horror holiday movies with Gremlins, and that was
yeah,
good. But like I like one
that's one of
It's a
them.
Wonderful Knife better. Um,
Same. And also, I watch Gremlins too,
well, yeah,
as well.
of course you do. Have you
So,
met you?
wow.
Your sixth favorite. Oh, wait, you said that we both rated it. Okay. Your
Yeah.
sixth favorite face.
The Vitch or the Witch.
Mhm.
We call it the Vivitch as a joke. We know it's the witch. But
No. It's no
It's
joke.
the Vivitch.
It's the Vivitch.
Um,
It's closer to bitch that way.
yeah, good point.
I didn't even like saying that. I really don't like that word.
I know.
I'm not gonna
And
rant on it,
also,
I promise. But the Vivitch is about as close as I'll usually get to that word.
yeah, and I rate it high because it's a really good movie. Like, it's really good.
It's well, and like technically and historically, it's done so like in terms of craft, it's
Yeah.
very
And
well done.
also, like, quintessential. It's the queer story of a young person being harmed by the patriarchy and by her religion, and claiming something other than herself as an invita and accepting an invitation to live deliciously as like that narrative is like so well done. Like that story
Mhm.
and what it's saying is so
Yeah,
well done.
yeah, yeah. I
But also it's a hard movie to watch because it's 3 hours long and it's dark the whole time because it's shot with period lighting. So it's like you're watching a
Yep.
very dark screen for 3 hours.
Indeed, indeed. What did we rate that one?
We don't have that one saved. This was again, well, this was the movie commentary. That was the issue because we
Oh,
have an episode on it back in the day
oh
from
yeah,
before
because you
Emily
did
was
it. Yeah,
co-host,
yeah.
which
Okay.
is a great episode to go back and listen to because we also talk about witchcraft with the practicing witch as well.
Ah,
Els Mills Warner. So,
nice, nice. All right.
a good companion to this season.
Yeah.
Okay,
Top five for the season. Coming in fifth for me. The Wiz.
I love it.
Ta-da! I it is The Wizard of Oz, but with more diversity and watching it with Brooke and like
Right?
it
That was
just
so
was
fun.
a whole other level of delight. And Brandy and Whitney Houston, like
Yeah. I
yeah.
think it is good, and I put it above Wizard of Oz because one of the things we both commented on as we were watching it, and I remember this, is saying, "Oh, this really does take Wizard of Oz and like improve some things about it." So we both
Mhm,
really like that, and the costuming was really kind of scary but fascinating and so cool.
mhm.
And the songs are catchy, but again, I'm not a huge musical person, but I think for me the reason why it's just a little bit lower on my list is because it has that awful narrative of Dorothy is about to go off to college or accept this new job,
Forgot
but
about
then
that.
she realizes, oh, I need to stay at home with my family and not better myself for my career or get money or which can still help my family, but it's like that
Yeah.
weird narrative. Even when her family themselves, that's the weird thing about the movie is her family was saying, you need to go off and do this. And the moral of the story is she comes back and she's like, no, I'm not. I'm gonna stay here.
Yeah, that's I forgot about that part.
So
That's complicated on like so many different levels.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
What did we rate it?
That one was a movie commentary, so no
Gosh.
rating.
Ugh,
Yeah.
rude. Okay, that's fair.
Okay. Now to number four.
The fighting words.
Yep. What's your number four?
No, you have to say your number five.
I thought I did say number five.
No, I say it
Oh,
first and then you say it. You just wrote them
I'm so
backwards on
wrong.
this one.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Friday the 13th, part three, 3D is my number five. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a victim of This is the Witch season. What was that about? She's in a relationship with a 40-year-old guy. Ugh.
Yeah.
That was
I,
the entirety of
and
my like, what is this movie?
like
I don't know.
objectively, I have said that this is not a good Friday the 13th movie. Friday the 13th part two is better. Story-wise,
Well, that
effects-wise,
to 16th
everything.
place.
Friday the 13th part three also. has those really creepy 3D effects that don't work well when you're
Which
watching it 2D.
don't make sense to me. Yeah.
And yet I rated it an 11 out of 10. And Emily rated it a 5.5. And
That tracks. That tracks for
and
both of
the
us.
and the reason I rate this so high is, and I said this in the episode too, is one of my favorite things to do when I watch movies is I love to watch movies with other people. And that's one of the things I love to do in the podcast is I get to watch them with Emily. We don't get to watch them in person because of
Mhm.
living far apart, but we
Yeah.
watch them over Zoom and kind of talk about the movie as we watch it. And my favorite thing to do around Halloween is to do a horror movie franchise marathon with friends. And since Friday the 13th has 12 movies in it, ain't nobody got time for 12 movies. So what movie am I going to kind of narrow it down to? If I want to show them a movie that will introduce who Jason is and get to the point, Friday the 13th Part 3 3D. That's who Jason is. That's what all the rest of the movies are going to be, this a variation of that.
Right, because the first two are in many ways outliers in the
Yes,
series.
the first one, his spoilers, his mom is the villain. The second one, he wears a bag over his face the whole time. It's the third one where he gets the hockey mask, which he wears every single movie after that. So
Yeah.
I always say, if speaking of recommendations, I'll give y'all a free one right here. If you want to do a Friday the 13th Part 3 marathon for quality, watch one and two. If you want to, and maybe six, one, two, four, six. If you want to do it though for fun, like I'm talking about, start with Part 3, then watch Part 4, then watch Part 6, then watch Part 9. Jason Goes to Hell.
So basically no 5 or 7 or 8 or
Don't watch
10
5.
plus.
If you're
Oh,
watching all of them, watch 5, but don't watch 5. 5 is by many considered to be the worst. So
ooh. Well,
we haven't got there in
we
our
can't
watch through. Our next
wait and
Friday the
see.
13th, which comes later this year, is going to watch Part 4.
I think it's next month.
Oh, yeah, we need to get on that then.
hmm
I'm
hmm
excited. Friday the
Yeah.
13th,
But
Part
then the next
4.
Friday the 13th after June is 2026.
I
So,
know, but we get two in 2026. We only get
yeah.
one this year. So,
Yeah.
uh,
All right.
so
The next fighting words.
yeah, now we are to top 4.
My fourth favorite is Halloween Town. I feel like we traded Friday the 13th Part 3 and Halloween Town.
Yeah, and
There are fighting words.
I'll admit, okay, this is what we rated it, and I think this goes back to what we both think about it, and we'll lead into this conversation well. I rated it 5, Emily rated it an 8.
Mhm. I rated it, I know, at least in part, large part, nostalgia. I love this movie. I love Marnie. I love the act like what's her face, the little kid,
Mm-hmm.
the younger
Same, same.
sister. I love watching it. It's a cute movie. It's a Halloween movie that
I
I
love
could
Debbie
watch
Reynolds, yeah.
and not have like the scary stuff, yeah, the grandma, everything. And so it just like is it's a comfort movie for me.
Yeah, and that's allowed. Like there's
hmm
nothing ain't nothing wrong with that. Friday
hmm
13th Part 3 is kind of a comfort movie for me. But again, I acknowledge Friday 13th Part 3 is objectively bad. Halloween Town is objectively bad. It is
Halloween Town could have been a cool show.
agreed. I think that's kind of
That's
where
where
I
we came
landed
down
with that.
to.
Like
Yeah,
there was some really cool lore there that I would have loved for them to explore. And they do have 4 movies, but still each movie gets
weirder
worse
and weirder.
by like leaps and bounds, gets worse.
It's true.
But
It's true. Also, my frog reference I forgot was actually from Halloween Town 2. Calorie
yes.
Crunch.
But
This.
I I just don't like it. And I just thought it was there's some like embracing of queerness and stuff, which I love, and I can see how cool that is, informative. But when I approach it for the first time as an adult and watch it, and I'm just like, this is there's the plot makes no damn sense and has lots of holes. It's really kind of gross and like sexist in some ways, and then and like there's a little bit of weird racism that goes on in some part, and it's just like this movie they tried, but like it was a victim of its budget, I think, for me. Like if it was given a quality budget, some rewrites, keep the same cast, but just like
Yeah.
flesh it out some more, it
Yeah.
would have
Make
been
it a
much
TV
better.
show.
Yeah, make a TV show.
Yep.
So
Yeah. I will still rewatch it in
yeah,
October.
I'll
So
rewatch it too, but
yeah.
only if elevated.
That tracks. That tracks. What about you?
Okay,
What's your
next.
fourth favorite?
The Love Witch, which means we can talk
Woohoo!
about it.
Indeed, indeed.
Let me see what the ratings are for here.
This one was complicated.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. She like the Love Witch is terrible. Is like falling into all of the like terrible misogyny, sexism
Hmm.
tropes and terribleness. And this one I know like because we talked about this and we talked about it in the one sentence summaries, right? Like Susanna and I both were like, this is bad. And you were like, no, there's more to it. It's actually not made by men. And
Yeah.
yeah, it took a little while for us to get to that point and be
Well,
like,
even
oh,
so, like you rated it high, so I think the conversation got you there. You rated it
yeah.
8.
Oh
I
yeah.
gave it 8.5. Susanna, you kept it at 5.5, and I get it because even though it was intentionally well done, I think what one of the things we talked about is like, but then also it's not necessarily fun to see this woman just her life fall apart because she can't get over some dick. Like that's
Yeah.
not necessarily entertaining, even if it is very informative and
Hmm.
thought-provoking. So I can definitely see why it's rated lower too.
Yeah. Yeah. Susanna's there just like doing whatever magic she does on the screen,
Yeah.
probably having her own little side comments on there where we're just like talking and she's like, haha, they're so well, I
I've
don't know.
All
debated
this
doing that before, where I've debated like having like my own commentary, running commentary, just like on the side of the screen without you
I
knowing,
think that'd
but
be
like.
hilarious. But I mean, with using your OBS, you could even have it going behind you and like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
then we'd see it and that would erase the fun.
it's true. It's
I
true.
will. I would love to do like. I would like to make it really meta. Like I'd like to do
Yeah.
like a movie commentary, where like you're doing the movie. You're doing the movie
Come to
commentary,
Patreon.
and I'm
We
like
used to.
commentary on your commentary.
So for Patreon, one of the a benefit I would love to do is I don't know if they still do it. There before the age of COVID, where like later COVID, where every streaming service now has a way to watch along someone with a
Do
movie.
watch parties,
There
yeah.
used to be a website you'd go to, but they would give you a live text that you could talk to while
Yeah,
you're watching it.
I've
And it's
done
like
that
we should totally do that with Patreon sometime if that's still an
and
option.
do like
Like
a
set
watch
a
along.
time. And if
I
you
think
can't make the
Patreon,
time, you'll still get to watch or listen. But like,
yeah, I think Patreon has that ability if well, I don't know. They do a like you can do release dates and release times and so
yeah,
you can set it up for people to watch our episode, but
yeah.
yeah, anyway.
So, but
Um
maybe
yeah,
coming
I
a
love
future
Twitch.
benefit, we'll see. Uh,
Yeah. And if you hear about any of these benefits or have other ideas, become a Patreon supporter
yeah,
or just message us and let us know and we
yeah.
will probably add it because
Let us know what you want.
we're
We're
poor
horror
for
nerds. Well,
money.
Pace is a horror nerd, and Emily's a church nerd slash horror nerd in training slash. I'm not even saying in
Yeah.
training anymore. I think you're
Yeah.
pretty much there
I'm a
now.
I'm a Padawan at least.
Yeah,
Jeez.
I think we knighted you. I'm still the
Ooh.
horror master, but you were knighted, I think, after our Alien season, if I remember correctly.
Wah, ha, ha, ha,
And I
ha.
want to talk about that when we get to some of the superlatives, because I think we need to get rid of a category. But anyway, we'll get there.
I have thoughts on
So,
that. Yeah.
um, but now I think we are finally to our top three.
Dun, dun, dun. My. So my top three were so hard. So I'm just saying,
Understood.
like, there was the chunk of like bottom half, and then the chunk of middle, and now the top three, and they've moved around a couple times. But my number three for this particular moment of before this episode started, Kiki's Delivery Service.
Yes.
I just love it. It's adorable.
And mine
It's
made top
cute.
10, so like it's
Yeah,
still high for me.
yeah. It's adorable. It's cute. She's cute.
We
The
didn't,
most annoying part is the boy who likes her.
yeah. But still,
And
it's kind of cute how they end up, even if
yeah,
he's obnoxious at first.
yeah,
And I love that it's a friendship between kids instead of like a forced weird sexualization or romance
yeah.
between these children. So I
Mm-hmm.
love that there's just this friendship there that kind of blossoms.
Yeah,
Uh, Beautiful, love Studio Ghibli and just everything about it. Uh,
yeah,
the top 10 were really hard for me, so
yeah.
but
Well,
still
and
made it
like
there.
the thing that I remember you saying that really stuck with me was because this was a movie commentary, right?
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
don't have rating for it, sadly.
Was that the illustration for Studio Ghibli is not about how something looks, but how it feels.
Yeah.
And
It's
that,
especially like evident in water, but we talked about in the
Mhm.
movie commentary other ways it shows up too,
Yeah.
beyond
And
just water.
it's so accurate. And I love having a movie that's a Studio Ghibli movie. So it's like that type of a movie. And then it's how it
Yeah.
feels. It is
And their
the
movies
that giftedness.
have the reputation that, for those who are not familiar, Pixar is much more well known in the United States. And it's a very similar kind of, many people have this opinion. You can trust Pixar to have a feel good, they'll like hit you in a important place and
Mhm.
also be well done with the quality of animation. And Studio Ghibli very much is that around the world as well.
Yeah.
It's kind of overshadowed in this country by Disney and Pixar, but there's still very much a wide fan base in this country as well,
Yeah.
and globally for sure.
Hmm. Hmm.
So we
The
can,
so your third place
my
is
third place, yeah, Wicked. And this surprised me though. But, well, I can't talk about it. Okay.
I was gonna
Second
say
place.
Pacifer.
Yeah, second
My
place.
second place is Wicked. So now we can talk about it.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised I rated it so high
I
in the ranking. Not rated it high, but put it this high in the ranking.
I went back and forth. It could not be first because it's a multi-parter. And so it just couldn't, which I think now that I'm talking about that, I think that also went into my rating,
Hmm.
not just my ranking. Um, but it just like it does so good in this particular time and place in our country
Yeah,
and in what I have longed for and am getting more of in movies and entertainment, which is a deeper engagement with diversity and the
yeah,
ways that that impacts people's lives and like actual wrestling with that, not just like, look, here's a person of color here and a disabled person here and a right like, but to have multiple marginalizations, to have it be so very queer.
yeah. And you did rate it high. We both rated it 9.5, and Susanna rated it a 10.
Mhm.
Like we rated it high.
Yeah, it's good. It's
Like, you're all crazy. It should be number one. It's my number one.
That's fair. You're allowed
Like,
to have it as
I
number
mean, it
one.
should be number one. It's fantastic. Okay, so it didn't do the whole thing in one movie. I'm glad about that because the depth that it
Me
goes
too,
right.
though,
into,
Ultimately,
honestly.
that
it
is the
goes.
better thing. Ultimately, it is better for it to be a two-parter. I just wish that they had put both parts out at once and had an intermission. Like the musical.
We could have
Basically, I
had a
wish I could go
5 hour
to the
long
movie
movie.
like a
Why not?
musical. I get that they're not going to. I get
Yeah.
that they didn't, but I still am bitter about the first time I went to a movie and didn't realize it was a part one.
Okay,
Hobbit.
Emily, let that go and just rate
I
this
will
movie.
eventually.
Heal. Heal, child Emily.
What movie was that? Tell me what movie that was that
Hobbit,
has
right?
nothing to do with this movie.
I
Bring
can't.
it. Bring it, baby. Bring it.
I can't.
Tell me, haha.
I cannot say the name of the author.
Oh, and so you
Oh.
are gonna let Wicked be spoiled by she who will not be named?
Okay, it was that,
Oh
and then
my
it was The
god!
Hobbit. And the
Yeah.
fact that The Hobbit was split into three fucking movies
Okay, that's
for
fair.
one book that was shorter than any of the Lord of the Rings
Yeah.
Oh, I
trilogy
thought you were talking about
individually.
she who will not be
No,
named.
no, that was the first one. That was the first one. And then it worked. And so
Yeah.
everybody else tried it.
I so I have a controversial opinion about The Hobbit. One day down the road, we'll need to do Lord of the Rings, either as a limited mini spin-off of this podcast where you just do a Lord of the Rings one-off thing, or whatever. But
Or a
like, I want to
season
talk
of
about
the
that one
horrors
day
of
because
racism wrapped into world wars.
I, yeah, I kind of love the Hobbit trilogy now.
Christopher, I am betrayed.
I love Lord of the Rings, don't get me wrong. Like, I love all of it. I love all of it.
Well, and they did the Hobbit, and they didn't even like they could have set it up so that the gnomes or whatever, like that they froze into the stone in
Trolls.
the position, the trolls in the position that they find them in the Lord of the Rings. But did they? No. Why not? Nobody fucking knows. I have opinions. I can't wait for us to do our Lord of the Rings spin-off or
Yeah.
Middle Earth spin-off.
I
It's
like
gonna be
how
great.
Emily's feelings about part twos has turned into from talking about Wicked to talking about Lord of the Rings franchise, Middle Earth franchise. I own all them on 4K and I watch them on 4K, and that's why my opinion changed. But anyway, we'll get there. And
Ooh.
War of the Rohirrim. Watch on HBO Max if you haven't. So good.
Ooh. I don't think
Animated.
I've seen that one.
It's set in the same
Yeah.
cinematic universe as Lord of the Rings and
Yeah, but
Hobbit trilogy, but
I
it's
was
animated.
told I was told that like Emily was the best at being able to separate their themselves from other situations and know what
If
was
I
their
couldn't
feelings and what was other
differentiate,
people's.
it wouldn't have been second.
Why does this have something to do with that has nothing to do with Wicked?
I can't
It's the lies
finish
of
the
a five.
movie.
I
The
love
movie
it.
is not finished.
Okay, let me say something here. When you're talking about something other than level 101 marginalization, when you're talking about other levels, which we got into with talking about it, because when we were talking about does it pass the test, and I was like, nah, it doesn't. She did not. She like gave like she like blinked when she did this harm to somebody else, and then she flew off. Like she was like, I'm gonna double down on my own liberation instead of the harm I'm causing on other. Like we were talking about other levels, and when we're talking about deeper levels of marginalization and justice, that is not
Hmm.
something that fits into Hollywood's little like 90-minute feature film. And so I
Mhm.
appreciate that they went beyond that. And we're like, if
Yeah,
we're going to talk about these levels, then we're going to have to expand this into a series.
I
Did it
love.
make the money? Probably. I get it. I get it. But hey, what?
Probably.
Agreed. It definitely did. But I love though, honestly though, for first of all, I am 1000% sickened by the over-the-top marketing of Wicked, and you can t anyway in capitalism. But that much aside though. I love that it's in the top two that we get Susanna's unfiltered opinions on our list finally. After it took us to the top two.
Yeah, she promised us commentary
Commentary, and
on the whole list,
she
and then
also specifically promised us that she would make fun of Emily as part
I
of
okay, look,
And then he
I
just
commentary.
waits and waits and
I
waits.
just suddenly had the idea. What's the best way to deal with this this like heptabase? Oh my god, heptabase! I gotta pull it up and create a scene and da 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 da. So I like had been like doing that in the background so that you can see the
Hmm.
list, and then I don't know if you can see it on if you've like previewed it on your computer, but like so there's like a list, and then there's the ratings, and then there's a movie poster to the right. Like it's brilliant. I'm so smart.
I can't wait
You
to look
are.
at it, actually.
No, actually, no. That's the curse of
Okay,
ADHD is that
so
like you
here's the
have the
thing though.
best ideas at the very last second, and there's other ways I could have done this, and I just was like stumped all
Do
night, like
not
how I was gonna do
apologize.
it, and then
Our
I figured it out at the
podcast,
last second.
our podcast is a perpetual state of becoming because we are a process podcast.
Ooh! We were
Or
talking today about how the like links. Sorry, ADHD. The links between
Mhm.
process theology and quantum mechanics,
we were
and
talking
like
about last night.
it was so fascinating.
I
You're
cannot
right.
wait.
Okay, you got me. You
I
got me
cannot wait.
good. You got me good, doctor. You got me
Yep.
good.
Always bringing
Okay.
it to the deep
Also,
theology here,
we're just a fucking ADHD podcast. Y'all
right?
jump around all the time. That's how it works.
You know what I
I
really
will
do
tell
feel
you.
for you. I do.
So
I jump around too
let
sometimes.
me tell you,
It's okay.
No,
the
you get
very
stuck
first
on
se
something while everybody else moves.
let me
Like,
uh, let me tell you the story of HNAC, and I love that this is
yay.
built A, proving our ADHD, but also B, adding to the suspense of what our top um two will be because we're
Right,
not
as
there
long
yet.
as people can't like do math or read or
Yeah.
anything. Yeah.
So, Horror Nerds at Church, our very first lost episode is 3 hours long, and that was before you were part of this podcast, Susanna. That was when it was me and a whole other host than this crew here.
Yeah.
And I want
Please
to
continue.
say
Carry on.
the very first episode that I realized that me attempting to hold on to any semblance of this podcast
This.
being a linear endeavor died in
Yep.
season two when I had back to back Susanna as a guest, Abel as a guest, and especially of all people, Carla as a guest. When Carla was a guest, I do not think there was the thread line. There was just let us talk about everything
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
that is tangentially related to this movie, not even related to the movie. We're just going to go into these huge ass tangents about life, the universe, and everything because Carla is that freaking brilliant. And when they get preaching,
Oh,
like, and that happens
they were on
on that podcast. So
yeah,
Hmm.
they were on Nerds at Church to talk about mysticism and the like connection. And our Patreon episode ended up having the part that was mysticism and justice were connected, and oh, they preached. They preached.
right,
Hmm.
so friend of the podcast, friend of all the
So,
podcasts.
Pace
So
Spinner, what
now to
is
number
your
two.
second?
Finally, finally, number two. I want to delay it more. No, I'm kidding. Suspiria, 2017,
2017.
2018, one of them.
2017. Yes.
So we can talk about it.
Yeah. It is ranked as high as it is on mine, 1,000,000% for the movement and dance as spell stuff. Like
Ah,
that is the thing that just it sticks out the most for me for the movie, and it captivates me the most. There's lots of other stuff in
and
it that I'm like, meh, but
and to
the
remind you,
movement and
well,
dance.
to remind our listeners, so this is our ratings for this movie, and there's a comment that you made, Emily, about this movie that I think holds true in your rating and how it ranks. Because it still made top 10 for you, but
Yeah.
I gave it a 9 out of 10. Our guest, John Porter, gave it a 9 out of 10. Susanna gave it 6.5 and you gave it 7. And you both said that I need to rewatch this after this conversation
Hmm.
to understand the movie better. And both John and I said it took us two or three watchings before we
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have not rewatched it because we've been watching other things and playing Stardew Valley. Um, so
But it's a good movie.
I mean, it made my top 10.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I forgot about that comment though. So like I need to rewatch it. It's true.
Are
It's
we
true.
ready though? No.
I
For
think we
number
need.
one.
Do we have a drum roll, Susanna?
I don't have a drum roll. I will find that
Oh,
immediately after this. I have claps. Here, we're gonna
that's
clap.
okay.
Clapping.
Yeah, clap, clap, clap.
Our
Number
number one
one.
for this season of
We
The
can say it at the
Witch
same time even.
is Bed
Bed
Knobs
knobs
and
and
Broomstick.
broomsticks.
And who knows how it actually sounded if it was in sync at all. But indeed, Bed Knobs and Broomsticks, witchery fights Nazism. That's
Not
the essentials of.
we rated this. Emily rated 11. Susanna and I both rated 9.5.
Hmm.
It is that good.
It's so good.
It is. It really is. It's got the chosen family. It's got the like queerness,
Fighting Nazis and
nonsense,
fascism, using
right?
witchcraft and queerness to fight Nazis and fascism and
Yeah,
chosen family. Like,
yeah. It has it all. And
literally going into violent resistance against fascism, led
right.
by a witch riding around on a broom, a
It was
lesbian,
like a witch who
a witchy
is
librarian.
Who
a
has
witch
a
who is every
motorbike?
stereotype of lesbian possible. Like
Yes.
single, older, into magic, like
Has like a
librarian,
motorbike.
not in, has a little motorbike, is not interested in the man.
Like
Like
Doesn't
it's
want
such
so good.
children.
such
Not
a good
even temporary.
movie.
The
Yep.
men
Oh
want to
my God,
sexualize her,
such
and she could not be less interested. Like it
right?
is like so.
Mhm.
Like yeah, I mean it would have been my number two. I also I watched that during my childhood. It was a big part of my childhood. I loved Bread Knobs and Broomsticks.
It was not. I didn't
Yeah.
watch it until adulthood.
I love it. And like I think it's also evident that this was earlier in the season that it's only a 9.5 for me. And I remember specifically why is because I had to rate it lower because Suzanne and I were both talking about how there is this very like cis het gaze on the final act of the film that
Mm-hmm.
kind of is like turns into this, oh, queer chosen family needs to be forced into this peg of how we can understand it within a cishet framework,
Yeah.
which of course is a sheen over the film, and you can read the subtext of the film and totally read that in a more liberative way, which is how I read it when I watch it. And so, had I put this later in the season, it probably would have been like a 15 out of 10 or something. It's just my favorite.
Yeah.
Like, it's
It's
so good.
fantastic. I love it.
Um,
And I love that well, not our top two, but that like even Susanna, who's like, "Oh, is Wicked not your top one?" is like, "Yeah, this would have been my second." Like,
yeah,
I feel good about that. I feel good about the like combination of ones that we
yeah.
had.
And Wicked top three for me, but like I
Yeah.
said, I kind of agree with Emily. Like we're watching a movie that is split in the middle, and this, so we're trying to rate it without the conclusion of the story, which really intentionally problematize. So it's like it's one of those things that we talked about in the episode. We mentioned like we
Hmm.
cannot talk about some of these themes fully yet because it ends in a way that is going to completely unravel in the next movie or be
Yeah.
commented on in the next movie. And knowing that ending that story, it's really hard to kind of
Yeah.
separate it from that.
Yeah.
So
Agreed. Agreed.
now I have some superlatives, which are basically just
Mhm.
some fun kind of questions if anyone has any answers to these. And some of them I do have answers for. Which first question, of all the movies we covered, what do you all think is the scariest? We didn't really get too many scary movies, but we got a few. And some it could be a Patreon, it could have been a main feed, any of the episodes.
I think Thanksgiving maybe
That's a
ended
good
up
one.
being the
Yeah.
scariest for me because it was I did not guess who it was going to be. And there were some pieces that like didn't fit the pattern that I have so
Mm,
judiciously learned in
Mm.
my
yeah.
apprenticeship. Um, so, so yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I think.
I For me it's that one's definitely there. Friday 13th Part Two's there. And if I'm talking about first time watches, Suspiria and The Vivitch would be there. But since Suspiria is so long and The Vivitch is so long and so dark, like not seeing it in a theater, it's not quite as effective as the other ones. So I kind of would agree with you, I think, about Thanksgiving and maybe Friday the 13th Part 2 tied for me. Okay.
Did you have any
That, yeah,
scariest
did you have
enough?
what was your scariest, Susanna?
Um, I remember being a little scared about Blair Witch a long ass time
Yeah, that's
ago.
a good one.
Yeah, I remember being like, okay, this is
The end got me in a jump scare the first time I watched it.
yeah, like the him like what is she looking at the end? Like,
And one of the things we talked about is the absolute horror in a different way about that movie.
mhm.
Like goriest Thanksgiving Friday the 13th Part 2, like jump scariest, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But the horrors of the cis
Oh,
heteronormativity of the Blair Witch
so
is not met in
awful.
any of the other, well,
The
maybe The Love Witch,
misogyny,
but
right? Like,
those two
yeah,
movies.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And both try to comment on it, but both don't do it. Well, Love Witch does it amazingly, but like Blair Witch didn't do it that well.
Does not does not do it well at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, this one is going to be really hard for Emily, the next question.
Yeah.
Okay.
And probably, maybe for you too, Susanna. The best kill of the season. And had I done this early enough, I would have given Emily a
Love it.
spreadsheet
What
of
would
this where I
you?
have it. So, in fact, what I think do you have an answer now, or do we want to postpone this question for a lit retrospective and give you a chance to look at the spreadsheet?
I would love a chance to look at the spreadsheet because right now I'm mostly just getting like I know that like somebody's pride was killed a couple times
Yeah.
and I don't remember all of the context.
The notes I
Um,
made, that includes our ratings and everything. I also included our favorite kills there, so I have it all collated. So,
oh,
Oh, really?
yeah.
is it in
That's
a
what I did earlier
is
today
it
when I was preparing for this
is it
episode.
in a Google Doc?
It is, but I need to reformat it before I share it, but I'll share it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, do you just need a list of them, or like do you just need a list of them?
No, no.
Okay.
I talked about our favorite kills over the past season,
Oh, okay, okay.
and I have it. Just I need to get it in a place that can be read.
Mm,
Because right now it's in jumbled paste notes that make sense for pace.
Okay.
So
okay.
our baddest, I think this one we can answer though, which is our baddest witch of the season. Who took that DNA test and found out they were 100% that witch this season, aside from Pace and Lizzo?
Mm, I am. You know what? Like, I have to say, Eglantine is like up there for me.
Right?
That's what
The
I
Nubs
was
and
gonna
Broomstick.
say.
Yeah,
I was gonna say Eglin. I was gonna say Miss Price. Eglantine Price.
Yeah, I
she's up
think
there for
we all are
me.
gonna agree on Miss Price. I think we also need to give honorable mentions because otherwise all we're getting is Miss Price. But can you think
Alphaba
of
is
at
my
least like,
second. Yeah,
yeah,
Alphaba's my second.
I think Alphaba is an honorable mention for me. I think Elvira, just because I love Elvira, and I think Matilda. So I would say them as well.
Yeah.
Kiki, so cute. But I would, well, I guess Kiki isn't really the baddest witch yet. She's still learning.
Yeah.
She's still in apprenticeship towards that. So
Yeah. I think I mean, I agree with kind of what you were saying. I would say Matilda for sure is
Yeah.
the baddest witch. A
And
baddest witch, um, honorable mention at least.
and if we're talking about like the best good for her moment, if we're talking about that level of baddest witch,
Yeah.
Elphaba, of course, gets that with her defying gravity. But like we can't deny Suspiria, and we also cannot deny um why am I blanking on it? The witch, when both
Hmm.
of them at the end like claim their witchhood and claim just being evil and are like, this is who I am.
Yeah. I also I love Grandma
Yeah, that
in
counts.
Halloween Town too. I would add Grandma in
Yeah,
Halloween Town.
agreed. And we're not even talking about, so in past, since we've covered so many episodes this season, like our retrospective is already, what, 3 hours long at this point. Like we didn't really get into our Butus, but like if we could talk about like the witches from Charmed and stuff like that, like
Yes.
there's so
Like
many
that's a
bad
whole other.
witches there too. And like in Coven, we'll get there. So, but maybe for
Yeah.
Patreon we could do in future seasons, not for this one. In future seasons, we
Yeah.
could do kind of a Patreon retro too, so we have more
Ooh,
time to talk about some of
yeah.
that stuff.
That would be really
Um,
cool. I would love that.
so next we have which movies uh, so best HNAC test pass of the season, and I'll explain what the HNAC test is in a second. Um, but I want to be clear that I have a list of the movies. I went back and found the movies that actually passed it from our notes. And so out of those, this question is, which of those do we think passes it the best? And so the HNAC test has two parts. The first part is in your media's redemption arc. Does the character who is in the process of being redeemed die? Part If they die, then they do
Okay.
not pass that they fail the test. Part two, if the person survived, well, so yes, if the answer to the first one is yes, right, is no, that they did not die, then they pass the test. But part two, you pass with flying colors if the character who does not die and who is being redeemed does the hard work of trying to repair the harm of doing that. And I think a great example of that is Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender, of a character that
Mhm.
does that, just kind of one that many people would know. So, of the movies that passed this season, these are the ones that we said definitely passed. Halloween Town, The Witches, It's the Wonderful Knife, Bedknobs and Broomsticks. The maybes, Suspiria, Thanksgiving, The Wizard of Oz, and The Covenant.
Hmm.
So out of those, which do we think passes the best? I think I have a clear answer. I have two clear answers, actually. Two that I think tie in first place for me. You're
For
muted,
me,
Susanna.
okay,
Yeah.
got it. Oh, thank you. My mute, the audio is doing something different today, and I'm
Yeah.
confused about it. Okay, so like, I'm so sorry because that's gonna suck for editing. Anyway, uh, for me, um, obviously for me, it's Bedknobs and Broomsticks is number one, followed very closely, weirdly enough, by the mom from Covenant.
Interesting, because I think when we recorded our Bedknobs and Broomsticks, You were the one who was arguing that it didn't pass.
Yeah,
It
I was gonna say,
depends.
I don't.
No,
Who
for
are we
her,
talking
for
about?
Eglantine, yeah, it didn't
Well,
pass for
that
him.
was that was the thing. This was a disagreement.
That's where
Susanna
that's
and
where I was
I
stuck. I was like,
both
we have to figure out who we're talking about for each of these for
Susanna
the.
and I
Yeah.
both agreed that Eglantine passed the HNEC test, and Emily did not think that it applied to Eglantine because Emily's argument, if I remember correctly, was that she did not need redemption in any way. She was fine.
Yeah.
I feel like her view of like chosen family and isolationism and working
Yeah,
together as a community, all of that
that was the exact
changed
same thing
radically
I
from the
said.
beginning to the end, and she tried to
Yeah,
make good on it.
agreed.
Yeah.
What we all agreed did not apply, though, was any sort of she is redeemed by becoming more maternal. That is
Yeah,
not a narrative we subscribe
Yeah.
to be clear.
yeah,
Because that we agreed. There's
That
no
was not.
redemption needed there.
Yeah.
She's awesome. She became more open
Chosen family.
to chosen family, but a lot of us are on that journey of opening
right.
Hmm.
ourselves to chosen family. So, I love that you said that. I agree with the covenant. That was one that you definitely strongly stood by when we talked about it.
Hmm.
My tie is between the mom in Halloween Town and why am I blanking her name, but the main character in It's a Wonderful Life.
Those are mine too. I love that. Yeah, I was trying to think about it because I was like I mean, to the extent that there's anything close to death in a Disney movie, she technically died, but also she didn't actually die.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
she admitted that she was wrong and she took steps to like change and support her kid.
yeah,
Um, and It's a Wonderful Knife is quite literally about seeing the error of your ways and going
yeah,
a different route. Like it is the definition of repentance and repair. Um, and I will grant Bedknobs and Broomsticks in the caveated way that you all had them.
mm,
The Covenant
yeah,
is just a weird one for me.
yeah, it is. It is. I do think one redemption arc that I really liked, that we did not talk about, and I did not include my notes here, is because it was a BooTube, was the redemption arc of the dude played by Julian McMahon. I can't remember the character's name. He was a demon in the craft, not the craft, the what is the witch movie? The TV show, I mean. Why am I
Charmed?
blanking on it? Charmed. Yes, thank you.
Charmed, yeah,
So the demon dude who was the
Oh,
ex, but who
yeah, yeah, yeah.
was literally putting himself on the line and using his privilege to help them and stuff. Like
yeah,
I thought it was a really good redemption arc,
Yeah.
and
yeah.
it's a redemption arc that works really well in episodic TV where you can have these long character arcs played over time.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah.
so that's an honorable mention as well.
Yeah.
Uh, then my
Okay.
last question is most jump scares, and I have to say, either we were not keeping very good track, which is the most likely, or only
Only one.
there were there's only one movie that got a jump scare this whole season.
I think we didn't keep I feel like there were a bunch of maybes, but I do feel like we had more than one jump scare this season, but not a ton. And what I think is the culprit is that the horror education and apprenticeship that I have received has inculcated,
Agreed.
has
Agreed.
vaccinated me against some of the more common jump scares. Uh,
Yes.
I propose that we wait to decide on if we retire the category until we have watched the next as yet unannounced season
I think that's a
because I think
good
that will have
idea.
some.
I agree. I
Because I
agree. Good
haven't seen
call.
those.
I will
I've seen
say,
like a
like,
Really?
I
couple
didn't. It
parts, I
wasn't
think,
a jump
but
scare, but it was a jump something when Elphaba said, "Oh, you have no real power." Like my heart
yeah,
Yeah,
jumped.
we talked about that. Yeah.
Like
yeah.
everything in me just like sank like with a big huge like
And then
bang.
he's
Like,
like,
yeah.
Yeah.
"You're right." Yeah, pretty much.
Most jump scares that we have that was recorded was one for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Um, so
Which
we'll
makes sense
see.
because it's the slasher, like the slasher ones are the ones that are more jump scary.
Yeah. And it wasn't recorded like most of the time it didn't say zero, it just was blank. So I assume that just means we were not recording them.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I do recall there being more, but I don't recall there being much this season.
There wasn't much. But also we
Um,
didn't have a lot of
yeah,
slasher
we didn't have a lot of like
that
actually
scary
intended
scary.
to be scary horror
Yeah.
movies this season. Blair Witch, though, I think was one that probably had one or two, but we didn't
Yeah.
record it. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's beautiful transition, but we to what our next season's going to be. But before we have do that, we have to announce yet again our next episode. I'm super excited for.
Me too.
It is the Witch Lit retrospective. Witch Lit is Witch, where we're going to talk about witches as appear in literature, and
Hmm.
we are primarily kind of like when we did our vampire lit retro, we're primarily, but not exclusively, looking at witches in white and Western uh um, um cultures, but with some exceptions
Oh,
within that canon of literature.
I
In other words, what I'm saying, I'm saying that the majority of the books we're going to talk about are that, but we will have others we talk about, if that makes sense.
okay. You know the list better than I do because I
There
only
isn't a
have my own
list.
like two contributions.
There isn't a list. I was just thinking of like when the
My
way
two
we did it with the
contributions are like
vampires.
50-50.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about like some of the stuff we'll talk about are like Grimm's fairy tales, witches show up all the
Mm.
time there. And then Wizard of Oz, white dude.
Wicked.
Gregory McGuire, white dude, queer, but white dude. So I was just thinking a lot of the ones
Yeah.
that we talked about, Mayfair, which is we're going to talk about. This is all kind of a
Cemetery
foretaste
Boys.
for our next episode. So a lot of
Yeah.
it's going to be that, but not exclusively that.
But plus, we're hoping to have our special guest friend of the podcast, Stephanie Kaler.
Yeah,
Uh,
who is the librarian? And we'll
yeah,
have,
who is a high school
know,
librarian in the frickin' state of Iowa,
so
y'all.
you know she's going to have some amazing recs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Past guest, she was on our BootTube, so you can go back and listen to um become a Patreon supporter and listen to our BootTube on Vampirina, along with then
4-year-old,
4-year-old
now 7-year-old.
uh recommendation and talking about Vampirina. So all
Mm-hmm.
that's on our BootTube.
Indeed, indeed. But in the meantime, summer is coming.
Yes, and you know what is very popular in
Beaches.
July? Beaches. And you know what is very popular on a specific channel, the Discovery Channel, in mid-July?
Beaches filled
Beaches. And
with
but with,
sharks.
right?
Dun,
Da,
dun.
da,
Oh my
da,
gosh, are we
da.
gonna have Baby Shark be somehow a part of our
I need to
season?
see what needs to happen is I need to convince Brian to get his ass on this podcast because we have a real life baby shark story, not
Shark
horror
doo
story, but
doo
baby shark
doo
story that Brian
doo.
can tell
Baby
about
Shark
that.
doo
So
doo
he needs
doo
to get his
doo
ass
doo
on the
doo.
podcast. We need to
Baby
talk
Shark.
about that. So
Mama Shark doo doo doo
we
doo
are
doo.
Emily,
Damn it.
stop. No, Emily, do
right?
not. We do not
Thank
need
you.
Emily, babe. No, babes, don't do that. No.
We do not need our video to be flagged erroneously, but nevertheless flagged for copyright infringement either.
Oh, there's no way my singing it could ever be copyright infringement. Excuse you.
But
Continue. Continue gaily forward.
we will be covered. So Shark Week on Discovery, who's not affiliated with us, but hey, Discovery, if you want to sponsor a random obscure podcast for to tie in with your Shark Week, please reach out. We're here for you. Um, but Shark Week 2025 on Discovery Channel, July 6th through 13th. Starting that week on Horror Nerds at Church, we are going to cover the Jaws franchise. So as a little summer blockbuster
Dun,
mini season kind of treat, we're going to
dun,
give you all four Jaws movies and one
dun,
Patreon episode
dun,
on the movie Orca, which is kind of a Jaws ripoff.
Okay, that is definitely has the jump scares. Like it will,
So
yeah,
yeah, so
yeah.
we will see.
I haven't seen any of
Jaws,
those movies. I think I've seen like maybe a couple parts of
but
Jaws
you have seen
when it was on TV, but
so many slasher movies, and you're talking about this. So we'll see. The Jaws franchise is essentially a slasher in the ocean with the animal instead of a creature.
Start
So
ADHDing. Phoebe Bridges, did
yeah, yeah.
did a documentary recently on the octopus.
Yes.
Have you seen it? It's on
Hmm.
wait,
Prime. Anyway, so she
uh,
like heavily features Tracy Morgan, who is obsessed with sea creatures. And
Hmm.
Tracy Morgan has like all these like aquariums in his house and everything. And he was talking about Jaws, and he said, and I love this. He was like, you know who the real hero is of that movie, and I love this. It's the music. The music is
It
the
oh,
is
real hero.
yeah,
100%.
You couldn't even get the actual
literally,
like
that's
like you
the
couldn't
only thing
get
I
the
know.
shark to work, which is true
So
on the movie. But like, and I anyway, I was just thinking about it,
it
and like
is. It
I
is.
had no idea that Tracy
So
Morgan was so into sea
little
creatures.
little
Yeah.
mini foretaste of the feast to come. Susanna's giving us. Look at all this that we're going to talk about. We have so much to talk about with the Jaws franchise. There are four of those movies. And also, as Margaret Cho says, this is what I always think of when I think it's sea creatures. In one of her stand-up specials, she talks about how much lesbians and sapphic people are obsessed with sea mammals. And we're going to be talking about orca. And I am obsessed with orcas.
Manatees are the best.
No,
See,
I love
orcas,
all of
man.
us
manatees.
all
I
of us
Orcas.
love
have a
manatees.
favorite sea
And one
mammal.
time, manatees were in the prayers of the people for the ELCA resources, and there was a conversation among clergy about taking them out because people would be caught off guard during the prayers of the people, and God forbid they should actually pay attention to what they're
Right?
praying for.
Holy
I have
shit.
Jesus
feelings.
never caught anybody off guard.
Yeah.
Right?
Never.
Never in
Also,
his prayers.
I think that at the end of our Witch Lit retrospective, we should also say what our favorite shark is because I happen to know that our potential guest would love to tell us.
I love that idea. So we'll talk more about that in our next episode. But yes, I'm super excited. And I love how each one of us just named a favorite sea mammal. So
When
here's the thing. If you
they started taking
know
down yachts, I was sold.
if you know a
It's true. It's true.
non-binary
I do love that.
person, if you know a woman, a non-binary person, if you know a femme, if you know somebody in your life who has a favorite sea mammal, that might be because they share cultural heritage with the people of the island of Lesbos, which is the source
That
of
one.
this love of sea mammals.
Mhm.
So,
Okay. I get it.
Y'all know
well,
about Blahaj. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it
yes,
correct.
yes.
Blahaj,
And
the like
the trans
Swedish
love for the
trans.
trans femme especially, but trans love for uh, a
The
shark
IKEA.
stuffed animal from IKEA.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. I know that one.
That's gonna show up. I have a
Yes.
Voyage, of course. Of course I do. So that's going to show up in
Yeah.
our shark season as well.
Yes.
Maybe,
Also, there's a TikTok creator who came out with last year when the orcas started doing amazing work. Um, a fantastic merch. She's an indigenous TikTok creator. I have to find her. I think I follow her. Um, that had a great tagline too. We're gonna have so much fun.
I know, I'm so excited.
Awesome. Well,
Well,
on that Donna note, that's it for our show.
woo!
I know it's surprising. We're already at the end. My voice is almost gone.
Three
Our
and a half
theme,
hours in.
right? This is why you love us. Our theme music was by Matt May. Horror Nerds at Church releases seasonally on Thursdays ish. Please comment, rate, and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you catch your podcasts. Support us on Patreon and get access to exclusive movie commentary episodes, YouTube episodes, and way more bonus content that we've been talking about this entire episode. All you have to do is go to patreon.com/horror nerds at church, starting at only $5 to sign up. It is infinitely cheaper than buying any sort of magical spell or spell book that you could possibly find. Also, follow us on social media, Facebook and Instagram at Horror Nerds at Church, and Twitter and Blue Sky at HNACPOD for all the latest updates about upcoming films, news, and other announcements. Until next time, cast the circle wide and look out for sharks.
The circle, I love it. The circle is cast not by who we exclude, but by who we include.
Amen.